Hello, hello. Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard, and across from me is Mantzoukas Padman.
Hello.
Hello, Miniature Mouse. Today we're going to have a gentleman on by the name of Jason Mantzoukas.
Funny Jason Mantzoukas.
He's one of your all-time favorites.
He's so good. I've seen him do improv maybe 6 or 17 billion times, and it blows me away every time. He's incredible.
And from day one of starting this podcast, you've been saying we have to get Mantzoukas on. Mm-hmm. I met him doing Baby Mama some 14 years ago or whatever the hell that was. And he was on The League. He's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's on Kristen's show as Janet's weird boyfriend she created. He's unbelievable on that.
He's on everything.
He's on everything, and he's one of the more interesting, hysterical guests we've ever had. So you guys are going to love Jason Mantzoukas. I know it, so enjoy. Also, guys, some tickets are still available for our show in Santa Fe, New Mexico, April 20th at the Lenzik Performing Arts Center. Tickets can be found on our website, armchairexpertpod.com. And our live show is brought to you by New Mexico True. The land of enchantment brings you closer to history, nature, and the people sharing the journey with you. Start planning your trip now at newmexico.org/Dax.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
So, Jason, welcome to the attic.
Guys, thank you for having me.
I want to applaud a couple things right out of the gates, which...
Let's go.
One,
Let's do it.
Jason just drove here and he parked in the dirt.
Yeah.
That was not hard for him.
Now, I will say this.
Okay.
It was easy for me to imagine it because your engineer's car was already parked that way.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, should I pull up there next to you? And
Right.
He said yes.
Okay, well, don't take away from these compliments, okay?
You know what? I don't want him to rat me out
yourself.
later.
Okay.
And be like, it wasn't that hard.
That's very big of you. And then second, because I got here right after you, and I was on with my mom. Normally, I would have jumped right out of the car and greeted you and hugged you and things. But I was on with my mom, my dear mom. And
How
then
is she?
She's fantastic. In fact, she just, her cholesterol came back way lower than it had been.
That's great. What's she doing?
Congratulations.
What is she doing? I need to get mine down.
Don't get bummed out by this, but sincerely, her husband passed about 5 months ago, and she's no longer eating like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was her big conclusion.
That
Oh, that's
wild.
Because she was on the verge of going on medicine for it, and she didn't want to do that.
I just did.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I just did.
Do you know-
Give it to her, baby?
Yeah, and some people experience their muscles hurt when they're on it. Luckily for me, no problem.
No, my muscles hurt just because I get them so shredded.
Yeah.
Because I'm working so hard at the gym.
Yes.
Just like crushing.
Yeah.
Just like getting that muscle milk, just pumping that pump, getting that like that really veiny vascularity. You know,
Yes.
I'm just like crushing it.
But generally, when I bump into you at the gym, you're leaping up onto really tall boxes with weights on your shoulders.
Yes, I'm one of those guys that walks around with those weight vests, those vests that you can put different weights in.
Yes.
And then I mostly just jump up and down on boxes. That's the whole workout. And I scream the whole time.
Well, it's fucking working. You're
Yeah, man.
dieseled to the max.
Thank you. Thank you also for letting me like strip down while we do this.
Yeah. Now, the second thing was because I was in my car and I didn't greet you, you just walked right up the stairs to the attic.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he knew exactly where to go.
Wow. You're in a rare category. We've had
Really?
like 3 people who could do that.
That's what
People
I
are
said.
Just like wandering around the grounds.
Yes. They seem to park 2 miles away. I don't know why. Like, people will arrive here in a deep sweat, like a big sheen, and then they just kind of circle the property. But I observed all this and I thought, you know what, Jason, competent human being. That's before I even
Here's what
talked to
didn't
him.
come here to do, guys. Fuck around.
No,
Yeah,
no,
clearly.
no.
I came here to park, get up the steps, sit, put the cans on, and start the gab.
Also, punctual, you beat me here.
He was
Yes.
15 minutes early, which also, that
That's
was my
nice.
third
I was
Monica.
told to be. I was told to be here at 2:45.
Who
That's
told
all
you
I-
that?
Your people lied to you.
You know what? I won't disagree with you. I am represented by liars.
Yep.
Well, no, you know what this tells me
Yeah.
is that you're habitually late and they've discovered they have to lie to you.
I think that's actually probably true.
Now, when you make that connection, do you then go, oh, so I've got 10 more minutes? Like,
No,
don't you
I
get
will
ahead of
forget.
them? Oh,
I will
okay.
forget again. I will forget next time they do it to me.
Yes.
That they trick me at times.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Have you ever been in a war with the ADs on a movie or a TV show?
Define a war.
Okay. Well, in my version, it's very subtle and passive aggressive. So they'll bring me in an hour and a half early.
Oh, yeah.
And they do that 3 or 4 times in a row. And I go, cool, no problem. So I just know I'm going to come 45 minutes late every day.
Yeah.
Still 45 minutes early. And then they adjust. And then it just becomes an escalating war of like,
I go a different way with it.
okay.
I do this. If they do that to me a couple of times, if it's like they call me in and I'm sitting there for hours,
Right.
and it's like it seems to be like habitual. They're just calling us in, blah blah blah. I will then start to text before I leave the house to say, "Are you sure you need me?
Right.
Are you sure this is still my time?
Yes.
I might be running a little late." And if they're like, "No problem.
Okay.
Take your time." I'm
Back
like,
to back.
Okay, got it. Gonna snooze. Hit the snooze.
Right. You're hearing this and you're going, what a bunch of brats. I'll add this. They're giving you a piece of paper the night before, and it lists all the scenes they're going to shoot before yours, and you also know when they're bringing in the actors in those scenes. So you go in the greatest case scenario. There's no way they're filming this 4-page scene in 22 minutes.
Yes. Well, we're all here at the same time.
Yes.
And now I'm just like chilling.
Also, are you a big
wasting
hair-
lot of very valuable time.
Yes.
My time is very valuable.
Yes, it is.
I could be podcasting.
You could be podcasting.
And
you
I'm
do a lot.
not to anticipate your next question. I take like 10 minutes in hair and makeup. For the most part, they just look at me and are like, "Yep, you look the version of crazy we want you to look."
You look
so
exactly.
Go ahead.
Yes.
On the off chance that I do have something to do, like in the past, I've had to have my hair straightened or something like that.
Have you done that?
I have.
Okay.
That will then actually take longer and be more of a production, which is fun. But for the most part, I'm like in and out in 10 minutes.
And what did you get your hair straightened for?
A couple of things. Primarily a character that I played on Kroll's sketch show called Eagle Wing, who was one of the male gigolos.
Okay.
And so they would straighten and style my hair like against my face really dramatically. And I
Sure.
wore all like women's clothing.
Okay,
like,
great.
Like drapey, flowy, because that was like the version of a gigolo that I was.
Yes.
It was very funny.
And you.
But I would then forget. I would then be wrapped. I would forget my hair was straightened, and I would go and like get coffee or go to Gelson's.
Yes.
And see people just do double takes at me, and I'd be like, "Oh, right, I look super crazy right now."
Well, and to that point, let's just publicly celebrate Will Forte. Did you?
Yes.
Did you? I mean, the fact that he did a whole season of Last Man on Earth with half of a beard.
Yep.
And
Everything half.
And
Yeah.
had to travel throughout life.
Oh yeah, the rest of his days and nights were spent with half of hair.
Yes, and also, I think it was Mike Schur was telling us that he like just happened to sit down on a flight, and he turned to his right, and Will was next to him flying to New York, and he had the side that had a beard. So they're just kind of talking for a minute, and then Will eventually turned to look at him, and he almost,
That's amazing.
had a heart attack.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. What a great reveal.
Yes, and I was thinking, like, you're going through TSA with half of a beard.
Yeah.
You look as crazy as a human could look, and if you don't know he's a comedian, you're getting patted down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I get patted down
I'm about
with
to
a
say,
full beard.
If he's not getting patted down, there's a big problem.
That's also a good point. Thank you,
Yeah.
Monica.
You're
They
welcome.
should pat down a guy with half a beard,
Half a beard.
getting on a
Yeah.
flight
I had
to
a
New
guy
York.
once when my beard was really big. I had a TSA agent, because I was getting the full pat down, and his older boss came over and said to him, like in his ear, he goes, "Make sure you check his beard."
Oh my God.
And so the guy had to like feel all the way through all of the from front to back, side to side through my beard.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Did you
Very
kind
invasive.
of like it?
Well, right.
I came. We are still together.
Well, yes, because I went straight to in elementary school. They would come check for lice. The moms. This is one of my most unethical moments in life. Is the moms would volunteer. They'd come in. There'd be about 5 of the women working their way through the classroom, and they had those really long Q-tips. I don't even know where you buy them. And they'd sift through your hair looking for lice. And then the next mom would come to me and say, "Have you been done?" And I would say, "No."
because
And I'd have all 5 moms look
Yeah.
at my hair.
Oh, I get that.
I loved it.
Oh, all I want, the feeling that I find to be the most relaxing feeling, like that I would rather get instead of a massage or something like that, is someone like scratching my head.
We call it
That-
hair play.
My family called it nicing.
Oh.
Like I'm nicing your head, kind of,
I like
if that makes
that.
sense. Or I'm nicing your arm. But that to me is absolutely like Pavlovian kind of like,
Yeah.
like power down.
Me too.
Euphoria and calmness.
Totally.
Yeah, so Monica was on a trip with her girlfriends to Denver 2 weekends ago or something.
Great.
So I was texting with Monica while she was in Denver.
Yep.
And she goes, hey, gotta run, about to do hair play and massage with, what was the friend's name?
My friend Gina.
With Gina. Hair play and massage. And I thought to myself, like, God, I know Monica really well. This sounds sexual,
Yeah,
like,
that
doesn't
sounds
it?
like that sounds. I'll be honest. That sounds like a porn category.
Yeah,
that you could click on a porn search engine, if such a thing were to exist, which I can only assume it does.
If not, I'll invent it.
Yeah.
Happy to.
It says so much.
Hair play and massage. Now, is that something that you and Gina are like, hey, before we go out later, should we do hair play and massage?
No. So we've been friends since 6th grade. And
Sure.
I don't remember how it started, but at some point we started during sleepovers giving each other massages.
Okay.
And then playing with each other's hair and
Okay.
taking turns doing this back
Go
and
on.
forth.
Great.
Go
Just
on.
like
Go on.
keep telling the story just slower.
Yes, I know. You're rushing through
Just
it.
just like slower and like let's just throw some music under this. Let's just throw some like real chill music under this.
Yeah, so we would do that, and then we just have continued to do that for the rest of our lives.
Great.
And
Yeah, 'cause it's
at
really-
night. It's before bed.
I mean, again,
That's your wind
even
down.
that's when
Obviously.
most sexual activity happens,
Sure.
right
Yeah.
before bed.
Sure.
But yeah, if the thing about it too is if you don't start that in 6th grade, like you and I may become close. Like I like you already. This could develop into something. There'll be
Yeah.
no point in our future where I go, you want to do some hair play?
What, before we go to bed?
Yeah. before or after massage.
I'd love to do hair play and massage before we go to bed, Dad.
And this is like by the way, it was like a 2-hour ordeal.
Whoa,
Like
you guys do it for 2. How do you? Let me ask you. I have real questions.
Yeah.
How do you stay awake so long? I would think you would just like whoever goes first. I would think the person would just fall asleep within 10 minutes.
That would be so unethical for the other person.
Oh,
It would be
really?
a
So
betrayal.
there's reciprocity. You have to.
I would need to go first. Let me
Yeah.
just say that. I would have to go first in this scenario.
I normally go second
You do.
because I like to be the last one to receive.
Well, no, right. Yeah. I would want to receive
Yeah.
last because
Yeah.
it's not unlike oral sex with your partner. It's best for you to do it first.
Get it over with.
No, not even to get it over
Okay,
with.
well.
You're horny. you're really horny.
Okay.
And
Get
so
it over with.
And then my turn.
Now me.
you're enjoying it as the giver because you're so horny.
Yes.
But if you get it first and you have an orgasm, you're kind of like you're thinking
Yeah.
about what's on TV.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Did I turn off all the lights downstairs?
Yes. When is it April 15th we file taxes? So it's just best if I'm like, anyways.
Oh, so you were saying this. You're saying you would go first giving.
Yes, I would want to
Me
give
too. That's what I
first.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could stay hungry.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
You got it. You need that engine. You need that momentum to drive you forward.
You absolutely
which is,
do.
I'm going to get something after this.
Correct.
That's right. And like the better I do right now,
Yeah.
probably the better mine will get. So if I already got one and it was so-so, guess what? You're getting a so-so one back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It keeps you honest.
To answer your question, we talk. We talk during.
That's when you're just like
We're catching
catching
up.
up, chit-chatting.
Oh.
That's sweet. Okay, I get that. That makes
Would you be opposed to, like, next time you guys do this, and I'm being sincere.
Film?
Yeah, just a little bit for Instagram.
Or just for like
For us.
just for personal.
Just like
So we know how to do it.
Just start a text chain. What's that? What's that look like? Are you guys wearing like footsie pajamas? Like
Yeah, I picture like
picturing
Grease.
like a very sixth grade element. Like
Yes.
pigtails and like
the
footsie
girls in
pajamas.
Greece when they're all like
Yes.
gossiping, they're wearing like,
Tell me more.
tell me more, did she rub all your hair?
Yeah, there's sing-alongs and our shirts are off and
Oh, whoa.
Okay. It's chilly, I imagine. Keep it cool in the room.
no, our shirts are on, but we do back scratch under the shirt.
Oh my
This is getting
God,
crazy. I'm going to
back
stop talking about it.
No. I think that's I see, and I because I will delineate between over the shirt scratching and under the shirt
It's better.
scratching as well.
Yeah.
And there's something about like first starting to scratch over the shirt and then going under feels like whoa. This just got better.
Intensity
Yes.
raises.
Yep.
It really wakes up all those nerve endings.
Exactly.
Now, I want to go back to TSA for you because this kind of parallels the fact that you've many times in your career have played Middle Eastern.
I have.
Let's just
I
say
played
you're
all manner of
100%
things.
You're 100% Greek, though, right?
I am Greek. Yes, both my parents are Greek.
Yeah.
Yes.
And are they from Greece?
My dad's from Greece. My dad, although he came here when he was a kid,
Okay.
he was born in Greece.
What part?
He was born in like northern central Greece, a village with like no electricity.
Oh, wow.
His father like pushed a cart with vegetables around, fruits and vegetables around. It was like a very, it felt like from back in time.
Well, the flashbacks in Godfather.
Yes, very similar. Very similar, but for Greece.
Yeah.
And then after World War II, Greece fell into a civil war that was communists versus the government, and that precipitated a lot of people leaving Greece.
There was a mass exodus.
And so my dad's family left then.
And mom is
She's
second
Greek as
generation?
well.
Or?
Yeah, but born here. Her family's from like southern Greece, still mainland, but like southern Greece, the Peloponnese down below.
Okay.
Like more what you consider or think of as like outgoing, gregarious kind of Greeks. You
Yes. One of my best friends, Andrew Panay, is from Cyprus.
Yeah.
And they call him Cypriots?
Cypriot.
Cypriot.
He is a Cypriot.
He's a Cypriot.
Yep.
Yes, and I am endlessly fascinated
Oh, yeah.
by his Cypriotness.
Oh yeah, because that's a really interesting one because it is like a conflicted place.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because there were people, it's an island off
Yes.
of, right?
Correct.
So I'm assuming they have like a mix of different ethnicities maybe there?
It is. Now, I almost want to look this up because I think part of Cyprus is like contested land, maybe with Turkey.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm going to be wrong and the Greeks are.
You know what, Monica will
I'll look
fact
it up
check
for
it.
you during
yeah,
the
yeah.
fact
Oh,
check.
fact check.
Yeah.
You know, Monica, fact check that
Oh,
if you
I
don't
will.
mind.
Isn't it? It's so nice. It's
So good. I don't
liberating,
even have
right?
to think about
You
it.
can say whatever you
But
want.
boy, if I've gotten it wrong, I'm going to have to come on and apologize to like a lot of Greeks.
You'll hear about it. And did you have that really like Andrew's family is so tight? I don't know that I've observed another group that has such a tight
Very
family.
tight.
That's a very
tight.
Greek.
Like growing up, my family only really hung out with the rest of my family.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't go, my parents certainly had friends, but the people we really hung out with were like my aunts and uncles and my cousins and all that kind of stuff. And they all lived in and around, within, I'd say 40 minutes of where we lived. Everybody did. Everybody still does for the most part.
And how was the Greek Orthodox being observed at all?
Barely.
Barely? Well, that's-
Barely in my in my nuclear family, like my parents, like a couple of times we would go to church, I could tell, like there were periods of like when we were young. No, I think there was just maybe they felt like we should bring them to church, but the thing was like everything was in Greek. We didn't know Greek.
Right.
So it was just a lot of kind of theater in a way. It was just a lot of performance that I just wasn't I didn't have much access to because I didn't understand the words. And so we didn't go for very long.
Even if you had, I've been through the version where you can understand what they're saying and it doesn't help much.
No.
It's worse than Shakespeare when you're 8.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're saying.
Way worse than Shakespeare when you're
In the
8.
seating, I don't understand
Come
the
on.
wooden seating.
It's crazy.
It is.
What are we doing, guys?
I think everyone. It's like
Let's get some armchairs in there.
Honestly, if you
Lazy
stock
Boys.
that place with lazy boys,
I mean, Lazy Boy Church.
the Catholics are going to have to do something.
Yeah,
because I just
'cause of
again
the
watched.
size of the people.
Well, I have no opinion on the size of them. But
I'm just saying, not Catholics in general. I'm just saying the size of the people in our country is getting large.
It's pretty
true.
big. It's pretty big. But just on Sunday again on 60 Minutes, yet another thing, and I think in Boston-ish area. Anyways, they just can't stop.
Oh, they
Eating?
can't stop molesting people?
Yes,
Oh,
it's
yes.
incredible. Like
Can't stop, won't stop.
The thing on Sunday was like 160.
Oh, God.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how are they gonna keep this a thing? Here was my other observation.
Yeah.
If it had been revealed that there were 160 Scientologists that had molested kids,
Oh, yeah.
we would shut it down.
We've been talking about it constantly.
And-
can you imagine?
and we would end
And
it.
the Catholic Church has like systemically not just like molested thousands of people,
Yes.
but like worked tirelessly to cover it up,
Pay
to
off,
pay
yeah.
it off, to like they've behaved in ways that make, everything else that we find so insane about Scientology. Not that I'm some sort of Scientology.
No, nor am I.
apologist. Like, again, where is Shelley Miscavige? We don't know. But the point being, we are focused on these things when it is Scientology or when it is
anything
these other kind of
Islamic.
newer, or it's something that we don't know about a lot about.
Yeah.
But they're I'm a devout Howard Stern listener.
Oh, me
and
too.
Stern is like, everybody's stories are fake. Everybody's stories make no sense. He's like, why are we saying like, oh, Scientologists, it's so crazy they believe in there's aliens or whatever. Is it any crazier than the Christians who believe all of these magical things happened? Or is it any crazier than any of these
In
myths
fact,
or stories that we all ascribe to? Go
That's
ahead.
my exact point, and I even argue far more plausible that there are aliens than a man who is his son, and then this third entity, the Holy Ghost.
Sure.
So it's just if you're just plausibility wise, it's actually.
Absolutely.
I mean, we somehow tolerate an institution that seems to be endlessly guilty of this.
And like it is ceaseless. Like
Yes.
it's not like you just have a story just now that you
Sunday.
just saw.
Sunday.
Like 160 more
New.
Like that's what we're up to. Like,
Why do we think it's so rampant in the Catholic
Well,
Church versus like all these other?
They don't.
Because of the
they don't
marriage
allow
stuff?
marriage.
Yeah, I
is
guess.
a big.
like in the Orthodox Church, priests can marry and have families.
Right,
It's
right.
not.
And then-
they don't have to be celibate.
And then there
Yeah.
becomes like a chicken and the egg debate, which is either does the vow of celibacy then manifest itself in this pedophilia behavior, or do people who know they're never going to function as a married person are drawn there as a refuge? Either way, it's not ideal.
No.
Yes. So
And systemic changes need to be made on a level that they don't seem to be willing to engage with.
yeah,
is the thing.
Yeah, they seem to be a little slow to react. But at any rate, so did you grow up in the city or in one of the
No,
suburbs?
I
of
grew
Boston?
up like 7 miles north, like suburban Boston, in a town called Nahant that is the smallest town in Massachusetts. It's a 1 square mile island off the coast of a town called Lynn that is connected by like a 2.5 mile causeway.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And are you like a kid of the sea?
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not.
You
I'm
didn't
not
fish
at
and
all.
stuff.
I mean, I did. I fished and we went out on boats and stuff. But like, I'm not a good swimmer. I have like really bad asthma, and so I have like genuine fear of the sea. Because everybody
Sure.
would be like, "Let's swim out to Egg Rock," and Egg Rock was like, to me, seemed to be 1.5 miles away.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I'm gonna die trying to swim to that rock out there. There's no way."
Yeah.
So I'm not strong in the water.
Are you a hypochondriac?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
You
no good.
guys.
I definitely thought I had rhabdo all week long.
What is
This
rhabdo?
week?
And do I want to know?
Yeah, you do. It's a muscle fatigue. It's what happens if you like work out your muscles too hard.
Yeah.
Oh, and they turn to gel.
Something
right?
something like really bad happens. You have to go to the hospital.
God.
Something with kidney failure.
You're like muscles liquefy. They get into your bloodstream, and then you get renal failure.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Why did you, what were you doing that you
By the way,
worked
she
out
didn't
so
do
hard?
anything. I've been with her for the last week.
Yes, I worked out one time.
Oh,
But really hard.
I guess so hard. My legs have been so sore, and I was like, "This doesn't feel right. Something feels extra bad,
I get
and
that.
extra sore. It should be over by now." I definitely have rhabdo. Today,
Did you know about rhabdo or did you Google those symptoms and rhabdo came up?
one of our friends just had it.
yeah.
Oh.
So it's in
You've
my
got
brain.
a friend who had rhabdo?
But let me
He was in the
add.
hospital for 4 days.
Is it contagious?
Can I? It's not viral.
Genuine question. No. Has he been on this couch?
Now, were you Greek enough looking as a kid that it was an issue?
I was because we moved to that town and it was a very white town.
And I don't know how to tiptoe around this
Sure.
subject,
But I am white.
No, I was just going to say, and I'll say where I'm from, it seems to be pretty racist, or at least when I was
Sure.
a kid. And I've found at times some pockets of Boston to be a little.
Oh,
I don't know how to say that without offending anyone in Boston, but
Oh no! I mean, Boston is a tough town. I love Boston, and I have like a real fondness for it. But there is an element which is it really has. You are almost always on the verge of getting into a fight.
Yes.
Apropos of nothing.
absolutely,
Always.
Also observe that.
Yep. It doesn't matter where or when. Everybody thinks a fight's about to happen. You know, like it's about to jump off.
Yep.
And there really is, like, you know, talk about like systemic racism and class problems and all this kind of stuff. Boston really is like Massachusetts, Boston. These are like real liberal strongholds.
Yeah.
But that have like very serious, like, you know, you've got the busing crisis of the 70s. You've got all of this stuff that is a lot of race stuff, a lot of like really kind of sketchy history that is still around.
Well, and it remain Boston is one of the more segregated cities I'll go to in the country, where it's like you still have these really strong pockets, right? You have Charleston,
Sure.
right, and it's mostly Irish white guys, and then again,
the North End.
The North End was
Yep.
mostly Italian. You have all these pockets that seem still pretty segregated or modular.
Very much.
And also a lot of underprivileged white people,
Yep.
right? So you have some socioeconomic stuff. And it's
Absolutely.
just, I think anytime you have very limited resources and different groups that are identifiable, you get kind of it's very predictable.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
no. And there's a lot of it's a tough town. It's like a lot of angry people, a lot of tough people. It was a really interesting town to grow up in, and it's a fascinating town to go back to now.
Yeah.
As an adult.
So I was doing this movie there, The Judge, and my driver, I fell in love with this dude. He had just gotten out of prison like 9 months before or something,
Amazing.
Jimmy, and I was obsessed with him, and we would have these really long drives, and I slowly found out what he'd been in prison for and all this stuff, and then I found out he was from Charleston, and he had been in a crew there that robbed armored cars and all this. So I became obsessed with Charlestown, and then I decided on a Sunday I was going to go there and buy a T-shirt from this liquor store. I'm there and I'm looking at the shirts, and I want to buy Kristen one. She's back at the hotel. I'm on FaceTime with her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, honey, here's do you want this one or this one? And right at that moment, this dude, he looked like a soccer hooligan. He was like 210, neck tattoos, shaved head. He cruises by and he's like, fucking, I know you. Hey, can I get a picture? And I go, and I'm on with Chris, and I go, oh yeah, when you come out, dude, let's get a picture. And I don't even notice that he's offended. He walks in. 1 minute later, he comes out, and he's like, you know what, man? Fuck you. Fuck your fucking cunt wife. And I was like, my cunt wife? And Kristen's still on. I'm like, what, motherfucker? The dude who's selling the T-shirts, who's like 70, gets between us. We're screaming. My wife's screaming, walk away. This crazy thing. The dude who's selling the T-shirts
of Kristen at home, like it's like I'm going to watch my husband die now. Now it's where I watch my husband die.
It turned into Blair Witch because I've now forgotten she's even a part of this whole thing, and I'm screaming, "You can't fucking call my wife!" And then the 7-year-old, my favorite moment, and it was like one of those like if someone had written the script, you'd be so proud it got this specific. As the 7-year-old guy comes to get between us, he goes, "Nobody's getting fucking stabbed."
Amazing.
Like that's what he thought was next, is a stabbing.
I bet that guy knows the other guy, and he knows that's a stabbing guy.
That's part two of the story. Is I tell my driver Jimmy, I'm like, "So Jimmy, yesterday I went to your hometown, had this experience," and he goes, "I'd be real interested to know who this guy is." And I'm like, no, I don't want you to. He's like, no, I'm very, very curious about who this guy is. I know that was Mikey who runs that T-shirt shop. And I go, no, I don't want. And sure enough, by lunch, he knew who the guy was.
Really?
So I find that guy's in a fucking halfway house down the street. That's what's going on with this guy. That's not the neighborhood, whatever.
Wow.
But it really delivered for.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That actual transaction is a perfect Boston moment, which is he asked for something. You said yes, but
not on his timeline. Yes,
but on my time. And he was like, that is just like, you know what? Fuck you. What do you think? You're fucking better than me?
Yeah.
What are you? You know what? I said I fucking liked you and that you were fucking funny. And you don't have fucking time to take a picture with me?
Yes.
You fuck. I will fuck you up.
Do you have that instinct to like fight?
Never.
Even being around.
No, I never. That was never my. I don't have
your
that
move.
gear. I don't have that gear.
I think you have it or you don't.
Yeah, my gear is always to undercut tension and to try and undo whatever is going on.
But back to your childhood, did you get any shit for being Greek?
I got shit for being other.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like whether that was because we had just moved to town, whether it was because we didn't go to either of the two churches in town, or whatever it was, the shit and the bullying I got was for being somehow other, whatever that is, and all the kind of traditional name calling and all that kind of stuff.
Emasculation.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
yes. And what was your response? Was it to try to
Jokes.
just be funny?
Always jokes.
Yeah. And how did you do in school? Were you good at it?
I was fine at it.
Okay.
Had I tried harder, I would have been good at it. But I didn't.
You weren't
I had
super
no
interested.
love for academics or any of that. So I got by.
Yeah.
I was like a B's student.
Right.
I got B's. I did okay on my SATs. I went to a good college, but none of it. Like I wrote a thesis in college to graduate with honors. Right. And I went to my thesis defense where I have to kind of present it to my advisors. And my advisor said, Jason, his first line, Jason, you're not a great scholar. But thank God your gifts and graces lie elsewhere. So we can't give you credit for this.
They denied it.
Yeah, they denied it hard. Like the first thing he said to me was, let's put this aside. Let's pretend like this didn't happen. We can't let you graduate with honors. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, Larry, you're not wrong. I wrote it in the last 10 days and I should have been writing it the last 3 months. It was terrible.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
But you discovered drumming in high school. Is it safe to say your first love is really music more than...
I played music, yeah, all through. I started playing drums. I started taking drum lessons when I was like 10. 10, 11 years old, probably.
In marching band style?
Yeah, first I started playing like, or classical, like orchestral, like snare drumming, like pieces, like reading music and blah, blah, blah.
You have the little leather pad you're practicing
and then
on.
I got a pad, then I got a snare drum, and then once my parents were like, okay, you're serious enough about it, I got a drum set, and that was huge.
Yeah, what age did you get the drum kit?
Probably 12, 13.
And did you just
Somewhere,
spend
that
hours
was
and
it.
hours?
That was like everything.
Who were you idolizing? Can I guess who your favorite was? Was it Stewart?
Stuart Copeland from the Police is absolutely
number one. Right?
Like at that era is absolutely the best drummer to me.
Yes.
Stuart Copeland's hi-hat. Like I remember hearing Peter Gabriel's Red Rain on the radio and being that's Stuart Copeland playing that hi-hat. And I bought that record, looked, Stuart Copeland is only playing the hi-hat.
Oh, you're kidding.
Wow.
It's such a distinct hi-hat sound. He was the best. I loved him. And then when I got older in like high school and was playing in bands, I played in like cover bands and bands that were like, so the drummers that I loved were like Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. Jimmy Chamberlain from Smashing Pumpkins. Like they were great rock drummers. But then I got I got heavy into playing jazz for most of the rest of like high school, college, and stuff.
So what's interesting to me is you get out of college and then you go and you live abroad for a while, but counterintuitive places.
Yeah, I live in, it's all based on a project that I'm doing. In college, I signed up for, it's called a Watson Fellowship. Like your college kind of has to nominate you, blah, blah, blah. And they give you money to go and do a research project that is like not your field of academic research, that is just something you are obsessed with, really.
Oh, that's great.
And so I pitched them a project that was music-based, but also I was a religion major, so also religion-based.
So you weren't really raised very religious, but you were drawn to studying religion?
It was like a comparative religion program, so it was like I studied all the religions, which I found very interesting. It wasn't theology.
Right, you were more interested in maybe history in a sense?
And the why of. Like that was very interesting to me. Like, some of it was, of course, like the history and understanding like whether it was the Old Testament or New Testament or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of it was just like the why, like the sociology of why we are religious or why these things, whatever.
Yeah. Or I even remember in some Western Civ class I had, someone pointed out something amazing. I think I learned more about it again in subsequent anthro class, but the environment people are in and what an impact that has on the type of religion they create. So, for instance, the Old Testament in Judaism is from Mesopotamia area. They're between the Tigris and the Euphrates. It would flood all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So they lived in constant threat of flood. Whereas at the exact same time, you have the Egyptians who are living on a fertile crescent. They live on the Nile. It's very predictable. They don't ever have these big calamities. So their God was very kind of benevolent. They didn't have to make a lot of sacrifices, personal sacrifices.
No, like a random catastrophe wasn't going to befall them.
Yeah.
Like a flood or something, like maybe.
And their God reflects that.
Yeah.
Like it's not one that they're afraid of, that they have to constantly appease. And for me, when I learned that, I was like, oh, it's so human.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of this is so human.
We create this thing.
These are just stories that continue to get passed down. And then a couple people just started to be like, oh, we should put a bunch of these in a book.
Yeah.
Because
I heard John telling it, and he didn't.
And his story kind of lines up with this story I heard from this other guy.
Yeah.
And it gets to be like, and then you've just got stories that get kind of codified and passed on, and then everybody just starts to be like, yep, no, that's what we're doing. We're just doing that.
And it is so. Do you ever just marvel at the notion that like they happened at the only time they could have? Like, so writing's brand new. Well, back then you could write anything. And it's going to have some kind of stickiness because it's the only option, right?
Sure. And also, like it's a time when it's all oral. Everything is, until, years and years and years later when people can learn to read and learn to print and all this kind of stuff. These are just like traditions that are like, oh, that town has a book. That church has one of the books,
right?
And that guy can read it. He's going to tell us the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you just
that was entertainment.
Yeah, and it was also like important.
Sure.
This guy knows how to do this thing, and it's important now.
But don't you just think sometimes like, well, there's no way on earth something like that could start
now,
present day.
Yeah,
like you couldn't.
It's true until you like it, on a mass level. I think you're right, but then every once in a while you will like, and there's been a bunch of like documentaries like Wild Wild Country or whatever, where you will fall in. So like I just listened to 30 for 30 just did one about the Bikram yoga guy.
I watched the Real Sports on him, and I couldn't get enough of that guy.
Dude, listen to the podcast. There's like it's 6 episodes long, and it's straight crazy. But you're watching people, and it's modern. It's contemporary, basically.
Yeah.
And you're watching people fall into a fucking like cult of personality type situation with a guy that you're like, this is how it could go.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, like, the times we are in right now, are we going to see another like resurgence of like in the upheaval that is the mid to late 60s? There's a lot of gurus. There's a lot of people who start amassing followers, start having like cults start to become a big thing. I'm wondering, like, are we going to have that start happening again?
I think you'll have a ton of that, but I don't think it could ever be ubiquitous the way the other ones. Only simply in the same way that Johnny Carson, no one will ever have as many viewers as him because he was the only option.
Exactly.
So I just think, but while you said this, it just reminded me that I really want to recommend this to people. Have you listened to Uncover Escaping NXIVM?
No.
You fucking love it. If you liked Wild Wild Country, which I loved.
Wait, it's a podcast or it's a documentary?
It's a podcast.
Okay.
What you'll love about it, especially having studied religion, is to see how, ultimately all these things play on these hardwired things we're just so susceptible to. And a lot of them just being status and our propensity to admire and worship an alpha, whatever you want to call that alpha, and how they reinforce all that status stuff.
And people, I think, in this business and in this town are seekers who are looking for people that have answers.
Sure.
Are looking for somebody to, whether it's give them a job, tell them they know how they're going to get a job, like whatever that is. That's why I feel like in this business, like a lot of these cults end up in LA or like grabbing people from this business, because I think it's a lot of kind of seeking behavior. It's a lot of people who want there to be answers.
I'll say that, yes, we us dirtbags in this business, one of it is, we're seekers maybe. Also, we're arrogant as hell, and we feel like we're entitled to something very special. And then when you get here, you're kind of open to anything that would make you special, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's some level of like arrogance
It's also a lack
intertwined.
of control. When you get out here, you have no control over your life. Everyone's making every decision for you. So if somebody is saying, I can help you get what you want, that starts to feel like I'll never get that.
Or even better, which is what a lot of them are, is I have a path
Exactly.
for you to get what you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just take my classes, do my whatever this thing is,
Yeah.
whatever my system is.
Well,
Exactly.
and that's very appealing because any other job other than this, there's a pretty well-worn path. You know, you go get that degree, you start in the mailroom, whatever it is.
Work your way up.
Yeah, this is a
it's
very
an understandable hierarchy. This is like getting dropped in the middle of the jungle with a machete and told success is out there.
There's a
hack away.
There's a chest of gold coins somewhere
it's
out here.
You probably can find it.
99% of you
it
won't.
in 2 months. You might find it in 2 years. You might never find it. You know what I mean? Like it's like there is no.
And you can't do what Dax did because
Nope.
that's not the same thing.
No.
What you have is different than what he has.
There
so
is
you
no
can't-
path.
Yeah.
And I'll add to it, your ability has very little to do with whether or
Talent
not.
is almost irrelevant, and that's the thing that was such a hard thing to when when I taught at UCB or whatever, students or people who would ask me questions or stuff would be like, an enormous part of this business is not just talent, it is tenacity, it is drive, it is ambition, it is all of these other things, because you have to keep moving forward when everything is telling you you're not moving forward.
Yeah.
Stop trying, don't bother, whatever. Even if people are like, even though for years people were like, you're very funny, I still couldn't get hired.
Oh, totally.
Like I had casting directors be like, you're really funny, I always call you in, but you're not going to work for a long time.
Well, I can tell you, having been in the groundlings, that the handful of us that work consistently, with the exception of Melissa McCarthy, who really was the best of all of us.
Sure.
There's no really correlation between the talent level and which among us have worked.
Totally.
Yeah, it's.
Oh yeah, because I can name super talented people. I remember very vividly, like a real moment of like being like, oh, I get it. Like pretty early in on UCB, like I'm going to say like maybe 99, 2000. We'd been doing it a couple of years at that point, and it was starting to like cook. Stuff was starting to happen. There was a guy who was like really good, like a really good, talented guy, and he just bailed. He just was like,
couldn't do it
I don't
anymore.
want to do this. I don't want to like keep struggling. I kind of want a job.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It really blew my mind. I was like, oh, it's not enough to have the talent to do this.
No.
Because look at all these people here who don't have anywhere near the talent that guy had. And they are so tenacious. They are going to drive this thing until they succeed.
Right.
And that is fascinating.
Yeah. Even I'll just say too, you can end up on a trajectory. So Melissa was by far the funniest person I had ever seen in my life.
Sure.
And she got on Gilmore Girls, not being funny.
No.
So it was this very weird thing where it's like she was the only one among us that was making a ton of money, which was awesome, and she had a house, which was very. But there was some part of me that was like, this feels weird. Yeah. Like that's not what she does.
Yeah.
And thinking for years, well, that I guess even though she's the funniest person alive, that's not going to happen. Even though she's at the party, like she has her foot in the door, and
she's done it.
Yes,
she's like doing 7 years on a show that is well regarded.
And then without Bridesmaids, who knows where that all? But then it begs the question: how many Melissa McCarthys were like that, where they just ended up working, which is great.
And
but
let's take Melissa McCarthy as a continued example. Does Melissa McCarthy turn into, like, is there inevitably a moment where Melissa McCarthy gets to do the thing she does the best? Or does it not happen without Kristen and Annie, who knew her from Groundlings, wrote that part for her so that she could do the exact thing that she did best?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I always come back to. And that's what I'm like really grateful about comedy now, and the kind of scene that I came up in is everybody not just like wants to work with each other, but wants to work with each other for what we do best. Wants to like let everybody come and be like the best version of what they do.
Yes.
And that kind of
That seems like an evolution, by the way.
That I think so. Like
Because
we're
I
in a
think-
time right now that I think is based on the kind of ethos of improv and sketch, which is ensemble and support, less so like mercenary kind of.
Yeah.
What I will say is more of a stand-up individual versus the audience.
Well, sure. If you look at when we were growing up, the huge stars were Steve Martin, who was a
Yep.
stand-up, Eddie Murphy, who was a stand-up.
The comedy boom was stand-up comedy is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
It was just so paramount.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah. And then the idea that, it was also a time when SNL wasn't as relevant. It's like during those years where Lorne isn't there.
Yeah.
And all that stuff is going on. And then, but then I don't know about you guys, but for me, the minute Kids in the Hall came on, I was like, now this is very interesting. This is cool. Right now, something cool is happening.
I loved, obviously, Saturday Night Live as a kid, but for me, I was at that age that, when Kids in the Hall came around, I was like, oh, this is if me and my friends made a comedy show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so weird and niche and
And I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah, because I doubt you or I were looking at, Belushi going, I could be Belushi.
No.
Well, that wasn't in the cards for me, but I was looking at some of the guys, Foley and stuff on Kids in the Hall. I was like, I think I could do that.
100%.
I at least know that I'm that weird.
Yes, exactly. And that was what I kind of knew. Like in high school, junior and senior year, there were variety shows. And so we wrote sketches for that. And I remember writing sketches and being like, ooh, I think my sketches are weird. Mine are not like broad.
Right.
I think mine are the weirder ones, which I really liked. And I think part of that was because by then Kids in the Hall was on. I'd found other weird stuff that I really was like responding to, like British shows, stuff like that was really neat or bizarre.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is cool. This is exciting. I want to know everything about all this other stuff.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into UCB really quick, but before that, I wanted you two are on this mission. You have this grant.
Oh yeah.
And you go to
I go to Morocco, Egypt, Israel, and Turkey.
Okay.
For 2 years.
2 years.
Not just under 2 years.
Were you lonely? Did you have a girlfriend?
I was, it was catastrophically lonely when I landed in Morocco, like almost fundamentally unprepared emotionally. The deal with the grant is we give you money. The only thing we require is that you cannot return to the United States for 1 year.
Oh, wow.
You have to stay out.
What?
Oh, wow.
That's their whole thing. Their whole thing is we're paying for you to go have this experience.
Submerge yourself.
We don't want you coming home for holidays. We don't want you coming home to see your, family or whatever.
Probably a good rule.
It is. Oh my God. But I landed in Morocco, and I'm not even kidding, had a complete nervous breakdown.
Sure.
I lost my mind.
You're
'Cause I was
22?
Yeah, probably 23.
Okay.
Maybe. I had, high school level French, spoke no Arabic, and was immediately wildly out of my element and overwhelmed. Because there's also, this grant is not affiliated with anything. So unlike a Fulbright or anything else, I'm not university affiliated. I have nobody to check in with. I'm not supposed to, nobody's looking after me.
Right.
I'm just like, I just get there with a backpack and I'm like, all right, here I am.
Yeah.
And
You're like James Bond. You just parachuted into you go find the back.
yeah, except I'm like, I have to go find the musicians that are making music that is meant to bring them into an ecstatic trance and communicate with God. That's where I'm at. And it was really like, I would say a full 3 weeks of just a nightmare.
Let me add to, for the younger listeners, the full breadth of research you could have done was like a Fodder's travel guide too, right? You have got like
There
a
was no
binder of
internet.
paper.
There was no internet at the time, although that's not true. There was the internet, but there was no...
Nothing on it.
There was nothing on it. You know what I mean? Like, I could email.
Sure,
I
sure.
had just gotten my first email address because it's 1995 when I go. And so there was no, like, you couldn't Google stuff. You couldn't do anything. There was nothing. I just was there and I could like call and I could go places. And that was it. And I finally I ran into the newly arrived class of the Peace Corps volunteers of that year. And I met a whole bunch of them. And one of them was this woman who was like, oh, my station is Marrakesh. I'm moving to Marrakesh. I don't want to live alone. Do you want to be my roommate?
Right.
And I was like, 100% yes.
Yeah.
And that was like transformative. Just the idea that every day I could have a normal conversation with someone over coffee, or at the end of the day, just check in and chat, made everything like fall into place. And I like fully calmed down, and then was able to like do everything I set out to do, you know?
Can I just say too, which is really funny about just being human, is that like if you're at home and you have all these options, you have all these criteria of who you would be friends with or be roommates with, right? And then when you find yourself, I've been lonely like that a couple times overseas.
Yeah.
And man, all it takes is you speak English. I'll be best friends with
Let's talk forever.
Yes. And it really helps you understand, like,
it's really weird.
Any human's good.
Oh, yeah.
When you need it.
Oh, and when you are like hungering for that connection, just an ordinary conversation can satiate that desire. You know, that's what you need.
It really helps. It's a good experience to realize how much we need each other.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise you could go your whole life without figuring that out. But you were over there for 2 years, and did it reach a sweet spot where you're like, oh, I really like this?
Yeah, well, it did, because I stayed longer. Like as I was getting close to the end of my year, I realized I still had a lot of money, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to keep going. I don't have to go home. They're not requiring me to go back. I can keep. Why don't I just keep going? And so I did. And because there was definitely a point in which I kind of figured out how to do it well.
Right.
You know, I got good at being on my own.
Because you would go meet musicians and you would say, I have this interest.
This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm studying. This is what I'm interested in. So, for example, in Morocco, it was this kind of music that's called Gnawa music, the intent of which is to kind of exorcise demons from people.
Okay.
Basically, people who are possessed by demons, which really means they're sick.
Right.
There would be these all-night musical ceremonies where they would play trance-based music, like incredibly repetitive music.
Right.
And people would dance. But people would fall into trances and do all. It was like really interesting, kind of. And so, but it would take me a long time to earn people's trust. For
sure.
To let me watch this kind of stuff. At first, it was like, oh no, you can come to my house and I'll play you songs just so you can see it. It took me a very long time for them to be like, okay, tonight at 6 o'clock, we'll pick you up and we'll be gone for the whole night.
And in any of those experiences, did you experience anything transcendent?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't. No.
Do you think because you're someone who's maybe just not even susceptible to, say, like hypnotism,
bit.
or
I'm
are you a
bit
cynical?
Closed off that way. Yeah, I'm a little bit like I don't think that's. I mean, I suspect I'm not open to it.
Right.
You know, I'm
right.
also like, I've never had anything approaching an experience where I would be like, oh, I think there's a ghost in this house.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
me either.
I'm super pragmatic, science-based, but this stuff is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in what's happening, and I want to know what on a process level is happening, both for the musicians, but also for these dancers, also for the sick person. Like, what's going on? This is wild and fascinating.
Yeah, and did you like drugs when you were younger?
No,
You
I didn't
didn't?
do any drugs or drink alcohol until I was in my late 30s.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Even no alcohol.
Zero.
Based on what? Why?
Based on
Do you have a weird family history? Or
I don't know. Although partially my parents didn't much drink.
Yeah.
So I wasn't around it much. And it was obviously a big thing, like suburban high school party drinking
Sure.
kind of stuff. If I was to hazard a guess as to why I didn't drink or do any drugs, I would say it is probably because I have a life-threatening food allergy to eggs.
Oh.
And eggs is in a lot of stuff. And so I grew up very fear-based and very scared of things and very much needing to be and desiring to be in complete control and having to be hyper vigilant about everything that I
Put in your
ate
body.
and put in my body. And so I think that conceptually the idea of being out of control, drunk or stoned, like not being able to completely visualize what that would mean exactly. Or maybe I would be like, I don't know, I'm drunk. I want to eat that cookie.
Oh, right.
And then I'm dead. You know,
Yeah.
like maybe being out of control, maybe being stoned means I wouldn't be smart enough to read the ingredients on the packaging, and then I'm dead.
Yes.
You know?
So did you have any crazy experience with eggs as a kid? Like, were you airlifted or anything?
Never airlifted, but plenty of emergency rooms.
Did you have an EpiPen?
Yeah. I have an EpiPen. Oh, not in that bag.
Did you kiss someone?
I did. I
an
did
egg
have that
eater
experience. Yeah.
What happened?
I went on a date with a woman, and it was a great it was a first date even. And great. We had a super fun first date and chit chat. Okay. Had a bunch of drinks. And then, okay, we go to say good night at the end of the night. And we make out for, I don't know, a couple minutes.
Sure.
And I'm like, so weird. I was like, I feel like I'm having an allergic reaction but we didn't even eat any food. Like all we did was drink it. And she was like, well, what are you allergic to? And I was like, I'm allergic to eggs. And she goes, there's egg in the drink that I had. There's egg in the drink that I had. I had some
fucking
drink.
egg drink.
They have like froth, egg froth.
Yeah, mixology. And this has gotten me twice.
Ooh.
Wow.
Once this way because her drink had eggs and we made out. And then she was like, oh my God. She was like, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. And I was like, oh, it's okay. I just have to go home, take Benadryl, do an EpiPen. It'll be fine. but it was
and does it immediately affect your breathing?
It will affect my breathing. It just is. It's a matter of how much have I ingested and what like strength of it. Like, for example, if there was a bit of egg in the production of 3 dozen cookies and I ate 1 bite of 1 cookie, it would be a little slow, right? It would take a couple minutes for me to notice it.
Right.
But like I was at a friend's house who had grapes, sugar grapes on the table. And I was like, well, that seems pretty safe. Sure. 1, 2. And I was like, hang on, what's up with these grapes? And she was like, in order to get the sugar to stick, you have to roll them in egg whites.
Oh, Jesus.
God.
By the time I was in her lobby, I was almost unconscious.
Oh, my God.
Like I was like, it was like, this is years ago in New York. I got into a cab with my girlfriend at the time. And I said, for the first time to her, and we'd been together for like 10 years at that point. I was like, if I'm unconscious when we get to the hospital, these are the 3 things you need to tell them.
Wow.
And I wasn't, and it was fine. But it was,
by the way,
so fast moving.
I'm almost impressed that you were even able to go abroad for 2 years because I think, this is this whole environment.
There was a bunch of times that I got into really dicey situations. I almost died in like a cement room in Egypt.
Oh my God.
And in a monastery in Greece, I almost died.
Really?
No wonder you're a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
You're not a hypochondriac.
Yeah,
you
it's
actually
real
should
life.
be very concerned at all times.
That's the
Yeah.
bummer is like there is, and that's like I had a therapist once say to me like, you have every right to be vigilant and crazy about only food. You are inappropriately applying that template to other parts of your life, and it's just inappropriate there. Like you shouldn't be as vigilant and as controlling in your relationships, in your whatever, and these other things, because you only actually need to do that for food.
Yeah, that would be very hard to delineate when
it's appropriate.
So you've had 100 episodes of being scared from this egg thing.
Easy.
Oh my goodness.
It's everywhere.
It's in a lot of stuff.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go
though?
for it.
Will you try a Vital Farms egg?
I'd love to.
They are
love to.
free range, bullshit free.
Is this a sponsor?
Yeah, they're one of my sponsors.
Here's what I'm gonna say. Here's how much, Dax, I'm committed to this podcast. In order,
Monica, bring out the eggs.
Yeah.
In order to support your sponsor, what is it called? Vital Eggs.
Vital Farms.
Vital Farms.
Yeah.
I would love to eat one. I would love. You know what? Here's an ad for you guys, Vital Farms. Jason Mantzoukas here saying, I would literally die eating a Vital Farms egg.
There you go.
And it would be delicious.
That's the ultimate sign of a quality product.
If I'm ready to check out, it's going to be with a Vital Farms egg.
I hope I'm lucky enough to serve you that egg.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Okay, so you make your way home.
Yeah.
And you've now dedicated 6 years of your life to both music and theology on some level.
Sure.
And you go, okay, well, what am I going to do with all this?
No.
No.
At this point, I am only planning on moving to New York and doing comedy.
Okay. So that whole time you were like, I know I'm going to get into this.
Yes.
Okay.
Had I not gotten that grant, I would have moved to New York to do comedy.
Right.
That was my plan. But I got the grant and I was like, I'll do this. This is cool. I was at the time that I got the grant and left, I was 5 or 6 callbacks deep for the Blue Man Group.
You're kidding.
wow.
That makes
because I was
sense
a
because you were a drummer, yeah.
And it was one of the first expansions, and one of the most important things they needed was drummers.
Yeah.
And so there was a moment where I was like, maybe I won't go travel. Maybe I'll see what this Blue Man thing happens. And then I was like, no, wait a minute. What am I talking about? I should go and do this trip. This is amazing. You know, when am I going to get this opportunity? Somebody give me a bunch of money to go to amazing places and study something I'm genuinely fascinated by. But so there was always some performance element. Like I'd done sketch and improv in college and in high school. And so like that was always to me where I wanted to be on SNL. That was my,
right.
Those were my kind of goals.
So you get back to New York, and then how quickly do you find UCB? Pretty soon?
Almost immediately.
Okay.
Almost immediately I go and see them do a show, and then at the end of that show, they say, we're teaching classes. This is before there's a theater. They would rent out different venues to do shows.
Right.
And so the one they were renting out, the first time I saw them was the Red Room up above the KGB bar, which was like a venue that all sorts of people would do stuff in.
Yeah.
And then they had like a kind of, not a residency, but like they had like every Sunday night they would do ASCAT at a place called Solo Arts. And that became the first, like that's when I took classes. It was in that space.
So how old was it at that point when you saw it for the first time? A couple years?
Not even, like maybe a year. They'd been there a year maybe.
Okay. And did you fall head over heels in love with Polar the second you saw it?
Oh my God. I was like,
you just want to die?
It was like, maybe you, like how you felt about seeing Melissa. Like, I really was like, oh, okay. Because I would go see a show that was like the UCB4, Dratch, Tina Fey, Adam McKay, Brian McCann, Brian Stack, Miriam Tolan, Andy Richter, like all like the heaviest of heavy hitters from that Chicago generation.
Yeah.
From just the previous generation of Chicago. The Chicago group that did like the legendary Chicago shows.
Yeah.
Second City and Improv Olympic shows. So watching them, amazing, right? The shows were amazing. Polar, though, just like screaming amazing talent from the stage.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. So captivating.
I don't know. When I saw, even Polar, I think the first time I saw her do improv, I just kind of thought to myself, well, this can't be.
No.
There can't be somebody this beautiful that's also
so funny.
5 times funnier.
Funniest person, like just the funniest person
It's like
on that
you
stage
feel like
every time.
a unicorn. Yeah, you're just
truly.
watching this crazy little unicorn.
Truly. And then the next time I really feel like I saw that was I was out here. I went to a Sunday Company show. Someone was like, "Oh, you should go see the Sunday Company." I'd never seen a Groundling show. And it was a good show, but there were 2 sketches that were like next level. And both of them were Kristen Wiig sketches.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know who that is, but like that person that's a thing. That's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was just blown away. It was like exceptional.
So you get into UCB, and then before long, you're in one of the first teams, right?
Yeah, like I'm on a team called Mother that is like a big, like one of the longest, like bigger house teams.
Yeah.
Like the Swarm, Mother, there's Respecto, a couple of other teams that were like the kind of long running house teams.
Yeah. And did you, as this was happening, what year does Polar go to SNL?
2001.
2001.
September 2001. So her first show is right after September 11th.
Oh, congratulations.
That class,
Good luck.
Right? I'm almost positive that's right. Her, Seth Meyers, that class began their first show, I think, was 2 weeks after September 11th.
Oh, my
something
goodness.
like that. That might be a little bit wrong, but there's something like that.
Yeah. And so as people that you're now friends with are getting those opportunities, what are you thinking, oh, this is going to happen to me? Or are you like, oh, it's not going to happen to me?
For me, I'm not like I'm not a jealous person. I think maybe because I came out of the improv thing and everything, it seemed to me there was room for everybody. I firmly believed the more people from our scene that get successful, the more people from our scene they're gonna use.
Yeah.
So when Polar got SNL, it was great, right? But Polar was absolutely part of our scene, but she started our scene.
Right.
It was really when like Riggle got SNL that I was like, wait a minute, now my peers are getting now,
Yeah.
or when like I auditioned for The Daily Show when Helms and Cordry got it. And I was like, this is exciting. These are my peers. These are the people that I was in classes with or whatever.
Yeah.
Like Polar was my teacher.
It gets that much more real.
It was
second,
exciting.
right? Yeah.
It was really exciting. And I really loved that. Those years felt like, because there was a bunch of years, like let's say 98 to like 2001, 2002, where certainly like the UCB themselves and the people from that generation were working on their sketch show or doing other stuff. But all of us within the scene below, we were still just scrapping, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then...
Yeah, how are you even, what were you doing for work?
I worked, I first was a temp, and then I was hired full-time in a computer graphics department at JP Morgan, where I worked for 3 years.
Oh, that's so...
It was super weird.
Not what I would expect.
I had a full-day job.
And you clearly shaved back then.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because I want to say when I met you,
Yep.
I don't know if you remember when we first met.
At ASCAT. With you were with Will. And we went out, I feel like, to the Half King afterwards.
Yep. And then you, almost immediately after that, you were in Baby Mama.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
That's kind of where I remember meeting you on the rooftop.
Yep.
We had that scene.
That's true, too. Yeah.
And I had seen you in a couple of improv shows prior to that. Thought you were really funny. And then I also had this moment where you're in the movie. I was like, oh, again, I could go on all day about Polar, how much I love her. But she's just one of these people that really goes out of her way to pull people up with her, in my opinion. I mean, I don't...
Without a doubt. Like, the idea that, like in that movie, you know, that scene where it's all the pregnant couples, it's like Brian Stack is in there, I'm in there, Dave Finkel's in there. Like they're just using people that they know and like,
yeah,
you know, that they know will do well, but they also are supporting. You know?
And what's interesting is you would think, oh, like, well, of course that's what people would do, but at the same time, no, because you're so stuck in your own obsession about getting to the destination that it actually takes someone that's abnormally benevolent to keep reminding you, like, oh, I also got to think of everyone around me.
Oh no, absolutely. Which really was such a formative part of that scene, was like really support, and whenever people got success, they would almost invariably turn around and pull a bunch of other people forward.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like when Cordry had Children's Hospital, he turned around and grabbed a bunch of people and was like, come write, come perform, come do this thing with me.
Yeah. Do you ever worry, for instance, for me, if I look at all those comedians I was obsessed with in the 80s, there's only a couple that if somehow, I don't know how they did it, they stayed sharp. Like Bill Murray to me is this crazy anomaly where I don't know how, but he is everything he's always been.
Sure.
Comedians tend to age roughly.
Oh, yeah. Well, comedy is a thing, unlike drama. You know, drama is drama is drama is drama.
Yeah,
right?
your
like
daughter dies of something, it's always sad.
To it. You have access to those emotions no matter what time it is, no matter when you're finding that thing. Whether it's a movie from 30 years ago or present day or whatever, you're trading in that stuff. Genre, same thing. Comedy changes. Our tastes in comedy change generationally. Every 12 or so years, we decide
there's a new paradigm.
Yeah, like the idea that we went from the kind of singular broad, Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura, Liar, Liar, you know, that era of The Mask, supernatural, doesn't obey any naturalistic laws of anything, crazy, that we then
big crazy concepts.
Yeah, very high concept, magical realism kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. The idea that we then go and shift completely into what the kind of Judd, Seth and Evan, more naturalistic, more improvised kind of these movies clearly exist in the real world. The performances that are being given are ensemble, big ensembles of people acting pretty much like normal people act, just being as funny as possible within that context.
Yep.
And that has been the kind of taste for the last whatever.
Well, and I feel like we're suffering some transition right now that we don't really know what's next. I think that's why comedies have been doing pretty bad for the last couple years. Yeah. And it's easy to go, if you're a studio president, to go like, okay. I mean, I have my own theories on why. I mean, but you point out something really interesting I haven't thought of is that, I think we're probably in a paradigm shift. Someone will come out with something that works. Here's one of my fears. Everyone wants to laugh. They need to laugh. You can go on Instagram and you can get a joke in 30 seconds. Yeah. It's very easy. I'm laughing all day long looking at guys crash forklifts, whatever the thing I find is funny. you can't get drama that way. You can't get a 30-second dose of drama.
No, I think you're right. I think a lot of our appetite for comedy is now been farmed out to social media or YouTube or, you know, like when I would talk to like my nieces and nephews about like, what do you think is funny? What do you watch? How do you watch it? You know, and it's not true obviously right now because it's closed, but for years it was just Vine. It was Vine was their preferred avenue to find funny stuff. They didn't watch sitcoms. They weren't watching TV shows to find. They don't know who stand-up comedians are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They really don't.
Right.
They know Vine stars.
Sure.
Or YouTube people.
Yeah.
Those direct
it's a super efficient way because you're jumping right to whatever the thing is.
But what it's doing in a kind of terrible, well, not in a terrible way because I don't want
for us.
I don't want to in a way that is disappointing to me personally, is that it is like the focus now for how we process comedy a lot of times, or how we process a lot of stuff, isn't I point my camera at the world and I show you the world as I see it. It is I point the camera at myself and tell you about the world as I see it. It is all like we live in this like really weird period of like, hey guys, guess what? I'm here. This is the day that I decided I'm going to do the 5 things that I said I was going to do when I was 11 years old. I found the list when I was at my mom's house last week, and this is what we're doing today. And that's a video that, like,
I kind of want to see it
watch.
the way you just described it. I want to see her do the list.
Yes, but that "Hey Guys" is terrifying.
Yeah, here's my bigger fear and sadness over the whole thing is that comedy is infinitely better when it's a shared experience.
Yes.
There's nothing like when I saw Wedding Crashers in Santa Monica, I couldn't believe what was happening, right? And it was just all getting amplified by one another. And we're missing like 2-minute sections of dialogue because we're all laughing so hard. I mean, what a fucking ride.
But like but you're talking about something that is in and of itself almost like a disappearing thing, which is going to the movies. I don't know. I can't get my nieces and nephews to be interested to go to the movies.
Right.
Something that to me was like the most special, most fun thing.
Yeah.
I think for them, they're like, who cares?
Well,
I can watch something right here.
I know.
Watch me. I'm watching something. Who cares?
It regularly makes me sad for my children because I'll put on like, let's say Elf, which they dig. And it's a great Christmas movie and it's super funny. And I just think, oh, but I saw this. I know exactly. I was in New Zealand shooting without a paddle. I went and saw it there. There was a little kid behind me standing on a seat, and he goes, I like him. I like him so much, Dad. Like he was having this feeling about Will Ferrell, publicly and standing on a chair. And I was like, that's what consuming something like that should be like, where it's just like.
But no, we're also doing a bad job of creating comedies that are visually interesting such that people would feel like they would want to go to the movies to see them. You know, unfortunately, we are not making comedies that have anything approaching visuals that make it compelling visual storytelling. It's truly just locked off cameras, primarily pointed at people who are improvising. And then it's just jokes. It's just head jokes, not like thoughtful, you know, these are the comedy movies that we grew up on. You know, your Caddyshacks, yes, they're bloated. Yes, they're slow sometimes or whatever now in retrospect, but these are well-made movies.
Right. I was excited to see when I was reading about you today that you co-wrote Ride Along.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How many of there were you?
I was writer number 3.
Okay.
And I was rewritten for the final movie. Because the version of the movie I wrote was specifically for Ice Cube and Andy Samberg.
Okay.
And so that was the version I wrote. And it made its way. It was like I'd written a pilot for NBC that was all cops. It was called Off Duty. It was like cops who you never see doing police work. Okay. So it's like the drive up to walking into a grisly murder scene, cut away.
Yeah.
And so off of that, they hired me to rewrite a movie that they had written that was very PG. It was very much like Ice Cube wants to scare the guy that's going to marry his sister. So he creates a bunch of fake scares for him.
Right.
And to chase the guy off. And I was like, I'll do this, but the way I want to do it is I want to do The Shield as a comedy.
Love it.
And they were like, yeah, go ahead. Let's try that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I wrote it and they were very into it. It looked like for a minute it was going to get made and then it all fell apart.
Yeah.
It got put into turnaround. And then 21 Jump Street came out. Ice Cube was funny in that movie. And people were like, Ice Cube is funny. And to their credit, Ice Cube's company was like, we have a comedy script starring Ice Cube that we'll make.
Right.
And so Universal bought it out of turnaround. They put Kevin Hart in it.
Yeah.
And then they hired Manfredi and Hay to rewrite me.
Okay.
So they wrote the draft for Kevin.
Hart writers?
No. They are just another writing team.
Okay.
On the scene at the time who were great.
I have a question.
Go
Back
ahead.
to UCB.
Monica is a
Monica.
UCB person.
And I was super, super into it. And it's really timely because I have a dinner reunion tonight with one of my first indie teams, which is fun. I guess my question is, speaking of the Bhagwan, like 5 years ago is really when I was super into it, which now it's like, it's insane how big it is.
Sure.
And I feel like I was like the last class of it still being sort of small. Like we didn't have the...
What's hilarious is like...
You think that too?
I think that too.
Yeah.
And I'm the class that started in 98.
The whole thing, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I started UCB, there was maybe like 100 of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So
Yeah.
this was before the school opened and all that stuff. But you guys, like the first group, were the Bhagwan. I don't want to use the word cult because I was so indoctrinated.
No, people use the word cult around UCB, you know, because it is such like kind of what I was talking about before. It's like, here is our system. Here is the way. Take these classes. Then you get access to the stage. Then you can be on this team. If you are good enough to be on this team, you might be able to get onto this team.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's your whole life. You're doing shows every day. You're doing practice groups. You're on 10 teams. It's everything.
I feel like my generation of UCB is incredibly lucky because we came up in a time where there were not many of us. We had just gotten a theater and we could just get on stage almost always.
Yeah.
Like I was doing shows almost every night of the week, or I was teaching, or I was directing, or I was doing I did Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours in those first, probably 6 to 8 years in New York. I was constantly doing or talking about or examining improv and sketch.
Is it strange to be one of those people there where you are like heralded? When you're walking into the theater and there's the line and they are looking at you like, oh my God.
Belushi's here.
It
is that thing. It is like, you're not wrong. I know what you mean. Like within UCB or within there is perhaps no place I'm more famous than in an improv theater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because those really are the people who are like, oh, this person is like one of the most senior people that does this thing that I am aspiring to do or that I am obsessed with.
Yeah.
It's not just like being in the supermarket and having somebody be like, oh, hey, I like you on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
No, this is like, if you're into comic books and you see Stan.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that.
It really is.
Comedy nerds.
Comedy nerds, to comedy nerds, I am, I guess, somebody. And because I don't think of it all the time, but then when I meet people or talk to younger comedy people, I'm like, oh, of course. I've now been just doing this long enough. And a lot of people have been like, I saw you do a show 12 years ago at UCB in New York. I don't know if you remember it. You were doing a scene with somebody and you did this and then you said that. And I'm always like, I don't remember the show I did last week. Never mind 12 years. I don't remember anything.
Right.
These people, they go and they watch your show. These people, I was at one point, one of them, they go and they
Monica,
watch your show.
it sounds like you were obsessed with me.
I was so obsessed. I'm telling you now.
No, I can attest to this. When she was like, Jason wants to do the show. And I was like, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
But the level of which it was as if
It's a residual. It
was as if Leonardo DiCaprio had called to say,
I will literally answer any and all UCB questions you have, Monica, happily.
But they go to your show, then they go to Birds after, and then they spend an hour talking about your show.
Oh, that's great.
And you.
I've never seen Monica more starstruck. We've had so many people up here.
So embarrassing.
No, it's interesting.
No, but it's funny because you're breaking down basically. Like, imagine you were asking Ashton in here. I mean, do you realize like people watch your show and then they like talk about it over dinner? Like this is something that would never fascinate you.
Because it was my world.
I
for
know.
so,
I think it's
so
adorable.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
it is. It is, and it has that fervent kind of. It's an art form that is so satisfying to do. But if you are somebody that does it, it's also very satisfying to talk about.
Oh,
It is
my-
awful to talk about if you are not into it.
I always
yeah.
say my poor girlfriend
Yeah.
that I had for 9 years, the whole time I was going through the groundlings, she had to sit there in my fucking living room and has us talk about our sketches.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now-
no, we'll sit in the bar. You guys go to Birds because that's where the young people go. We don't. I go to the old people bar, and we'll break down the show. You know, like just on like a on a
Clinical.
for fun,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
just for fun to be like, okay, and then why did you come and do that? Like that was like wild, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's fun. Or like I do a show that's just me and another person, one scene for an hour. You know, is the whole show. It's just we walk out on stage, get a suggestion, and it's just one real time improvised scene.
Yeah.
And those are, and then afterwards there's a question and answer period because they're oftentimes incredibly crazy shows, super emotional, super weird. People cry. It's really wild. And almost, I would say 90% of the audience is improv students.
Right.
All of whom have a lot of questions about
Yes.
how we just did what we just did, you know, on a process level. And that I love. I love process. Genuinely, I love to talk about improvising. I love to talk about how integral and important it is in my life and in my career. It is it's something I talk about constantly in therapy. It's something that I think is applicable to like all elements of life. Whenever people are like, you know, like in like an interview or something like, why do you still do improv shows? You know, like you're on TV now, you did it, you made it. Like,
Yeah.
Why do you still do a weekly show at UCB? And I'm like, I would stop working professionally if you told me I could just improvise every night. Like
Right.
I would prefer to step on that stage
And pay my mortgage doing that.
Yeah. There's nothing that makes me feel like more solidly in my own body and head than being on stage without knowing what's going to happen.
Well, and you're also connecting to people in a way that is very heightened and can't really be replicated without, again, drugs, which I advise you to do. It's a very fun, unique, connected experience. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But you already said something that's a little bit of a clue for me, which is, and I don't know how you are this way. My wife happens to be this way too, but you're not jealous of other people that are around you, which is incredible. Did you ever audition for Saturday Night Live?
I did not.
You didn't?
The closest I ever got was 1 year. The first step is they ask you to send a tape. And 1 year I got asked to send a tape.
Okay.
And that was it. At that point, we were doing, like, Lauren would come and watch UCB showcases.
Okay.
So, like, there would be a night where there would be, like, me and, like, I was partners with Jessica St. Clair for, like, 10 years.
Okay.
We were, like, a comedy team.
Okay.
So it would be, like, 2 of our sketches, 2 sketches from this other group, and everybody would get, like, a shot. And, like, it would be a full audience. But, like, Lauren and Marcy and, like, Higgins would be there watching kind of thing.
Stressful?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The first couple times,
like
very stressful.
waiting
I did
for
it while
Guffman.
Michaels was in the audience was very stressful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then once it was like abundantly clear I was never going to be on SNL, and then if Lauren was there, it didn't. That was fine, you know,
Right.
Because I was like, this isn't going anywhere. But the show that I desperately wanted and could never get and auditioned for every year they had auditions was The Daily Show.
Oh, that was more your lane.
That was, it felt particularly vibrant at that time.
I feel like you're a very natural fit for that.
I couldn't crack it. I could not crack their thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was heartbroken. Like that's the one that I kept going back at.
Yeah.
Once SNL was like, I never even tried again.
Sure.
But The Daily Show, every time they were like, I don't think so. I was like, next year, you're going to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like you would have been very, very...
I agree.
Yeah, no, I mean, that seems...
But that was-
again, that's its own little genre or paradigm, too. That, like, the guys
And
that came out of there...
Those are the 2 scenes in New York at the time. It
Yeah.
was like the SNL group, and it was because there was nothing else there except for Letterman, I guess. But
Yeah.
for performers, it really was. Those are the two gigs.
Now, here's my hard-hitting question, which
All
will be, I'll
right.
try to word this correctly. You're very much like a comedian's comedian. I think all comedians know you.
Okay,
That's my perception.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that description. Thank you.
You've been recurring on all of Mike's shows,
Yes.
right? You're on Parks, you're on The Good Place. Do you get resentful to have that cachet among us and to not be leading your own TV show? Has that frustrated you over the years?
It has not.
It hasn't.
It has not. I have had a number of heartbreaking failures that I wish had succeeded. But I will say I love being I love where I am.
The role you have.
Yeah. I love where I am. I love that Mike wants to use me in all his shows.
Yeah.
I love that the guy who writes and directs the John Wick movies called me and was like, will you come and be in this movie?
Right.
I love that, I'm like a person that people either love or think is their secret weapon,
Yeah.
or think is like some
Introducing
like a
people to
comedian.
you. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not somebody who is out there doing a bunch of stuff that everybody's like, oh, there's that guy again.
Yeah.
It really is like, I like being able to pop up on things here and there. There are a couple of things, like I developed a show for myself to star in at Showtime like 3 years ago. That would have been like my show.
Right.
And I was heartbroken that it didn't go. Now that's fine. But I will continue to develop for myself. But like every year I get offered pilots and shows that I just don't think are great, so I kind of don't do them.
Right. Okay. So you
In favor
do
of I'd rather
being available
be,
to great stuff.
Exactly. There was a certain point where during the 10 years that I feel like I would happily have signed up to been fourth banana on a sitcom, nobody wanted me to be.
Right.
Couldn't get a job. I had a pretty successful writing career during those 10 years.
Yeah.
Sold shows, sold features, wrote a bunch of stuff, had made a good living.
Yeah.
And then I got The League, which was transformative for me because I feel like that's the show that really is like the baseline for people being like, oh, that's how you use that guy. I get it now.
Right.
And then
right.
people started to use me.
Yeah.
And then that show being improvised also played directly into my skill set.
Yes.
So I very quickly was able to be very funny on that show with like no introduction, just being like, I was never responsible for story. I could just come in and be as disruptive as possible.
Yes.
And they allowed that. They
Yeah.
were like, we had one of the things that in the Good Place is the same thing, which I'm very grateful for. Or Brooklyn. These are big ensembles, and they still will let me come in and like steal focus.
Sure.
And do a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, trash the place.
And that's when you ask, like, does it bother? I love that that's where I'm at. I love that I get to go in and be funny on shows that I think are already phenomenal. I watched season 1 of The Good Place and thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then in season 2, when Mike called to say, do you want to come and do this character? I was like, yes, I don't even need to know what it is. Just tell me when to be there.
Yes.
And there have been times where I've shown up like thinking I need to know these lines. This is like Transparent was a good example. Like I was like, I knew Jill, and I was like, this is a real show. Like I need to be like ready.
Yes.
So I prepared, did my stuff. We did the first take, and she goes, "Oh, wait, no. Sorry, I hired you to do your thing."
Yeah. That was a placeholder.
Yeah. So you just do the thing you do.
Yeah.
Because it was a scene with Jay Duplass, who I've known forever.
He's the sweetest.
And Amy Landecker, and I was like, "You sure?" And so then we just started improvising the scene, and within the improv, I just started flirting with Amy Landecker's character, and then by the end of the day, Jill was like, "Well, I guess you have to come back in season 2 so you guys can have sex." And I was like, okay. And so that ended up happening.
Well, see, I think maybe this is one of the answers, because similarly, I've always enjoyed whatever I got to do, because more often than not, I had a huge sense of ownership over it.
Yeah.
Because I have been allowed to do the thing I do.
Yeah.
And I could be happier being fifth on the call sheet because I had owned the thing I said.
Totally.
than if I had been the star.
Oh, yeah.
There's something about that that's really
I
rewarding,
think
isn't it?
we are allowed a degree of freedom when you are occupying that position that is in a business that is constantly kind of challenging your sense of power or control or any of that. We luckily are allowed a degree of control simply because our skill set is something that is valued.
So generally now, like say my wife, if she sees that you're coming in, she knows that.
Yeah.
But there's other times where it's like you kind of are all on the same level, let's say, and you get hired and you're somehow allowed to do that, but then the other actors have to
aren't.
be gently told not. That can be a very awkward moment, right?
Well, and there's also shows that I've gone on to where they don't improvise, but I am allowed to.
Right, exactly.
Or I'm like, I went on to Dirty Grandpa, Robert De Niro and Zac Efron, and I knew the director, and he was like, I need you to like improvise a lot of stuff. I need just like funny, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, got it. I see what's up.
Yeah.
And Zach I'd met on Neighbors, I guess. But De Niro didn't know at all, and it's De Niro, and I was like super intimidated.
Sure.
And it was my first take of my first day. The director explains to Zach and Robert, he goes, okay, well, we're going to do this take, and Jason's just going to kind of like, say some stuff.
He's going to do whatever the fuck he
He's
wants.
going to kind of, and Bob was kind of like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Because I'm like, I don't want to waste this guy's time.
Yes.
It's the only thing, like you don't want to be indulgent and waste anybody's time.
Yeah.
This is Robert De Niro, right?
You weirdly have to police yourself.
When we made The Dictator, Sasha and I would regularly do 25-minute takes.
Right.
Regularly do 25-minute improvised takes that were nuts.
Right.
And I was like, what
can
are
it be
you gonna
used?
do with this?
Yes.
This is chaos. But I go in and I just start riffing and doing stuff, and De Niro's just like staring at me. His camera's on me. He's not on camera. He's just there. He's there though. And I'm just doing this and I'm like, oh, this guy he's gonna be so pissed. And then I finish my spin. Okay, cut. Okay, great. And then he kind of stoic, kind of De Niro face and goes, there was some funny stuff in there. And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. But like, that's like, they weren't improvising. They didn't do a lot of improvising in the movie, but they wanted me to. And so sometimes you don't know, the other actors might be annoyed or that you're being indulgent or that you're being allowed to kind of waste time. But then sometimes people get really excited. This kind of thing, improvising in these contexts, it hasn't been going on for a super long time.
No.
So like when I went on to Brooklyn and started doing little improv bits, Andre Brower was like, what are you doing? Like was genuinely like so curious, again, on a process level. He was like, how are you doing this?
Right.
Are you coming up with these other lines the night before? Are you, because he is such a ferocious like process monster of preparedness.
Yes.
He comes with choices. He comes with like options for his lines. He's such a consummate professional and is crushing it. And then here I am just like fucking doop-a-doop-a-doop, like running around like being a maniac. And he was just so tickled by it, but was also like, how are you doing this? Like, what is
mechanically what's happening?
Yes, how does it work?
Yeah.
And that's neat. Like Ted Danson was the same on The Good Place. He was like, this is wild.
Yeah.
My first day on The Good Place, they were like, okay. I was like, what's my field of motion? Where am I in? And they were like, you can go from there to there. And Ted was kind of like, what's going on right now? It was fun.
That's wonderful. It's really fun when you're on The Good Place. Obviously, I watched that.
It's a very good show. Your wife is incredibly talented.
She's incredibly talented. She can really do all the things.
Things.
Yeah. I mean, I have almost nothing on her. It's really frustrating. Are you single?
I am.
You are single?
I am single, yes.
Would you like to be married and all that?
I would very much like to be married.
Yeah.
I am like, that is the thing that I am most shocked by in my life is that I have gotten to be 45 and don't have a family. I was so on that path and was like on board for it.
Right.
Knew
you wanted that.
Knew I wanted it. Had a relationship that was like 11 years long that I was like, yeah, great, let's do this. I'm in.
Yeah.
And then, but then that didn't work. A couple of others didn't work. And I'm like single and like shocked.
Do you have a pattern where you're aware of like, okay, next time around? Because you'll learn a lot in an 11 year.
learning. You know, like I feel like I am trying to cumulatively learn, like, I need to get better at this.
Right.
You know, I need to get better at figuring these things out.
Yeah.
Because I get into like, I get into a thing and then 3 years go by and then it ends and I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that was that. What am I meant to learn from this? How do I get better at this? You know?
Do you think maybe that you stay with people longer than you should?
Very much so.
Yeah. Do you think that's because you have a hard time hurting someone's feelings or being honest?
There's that. I think there's that. I also think that if I feel like I have chosen you, if I feel like this is the choice I've made, I'm going to follow through.
For better or worse.
I am going to follow through. I'm going to try. I'll go to therapy. I'll work on it because I think we can figure this out. I think you and we are smart enough. We can, whatever the problems are. Yeah. We're certainly smarter and better capable of dealing with them. Let's do it. You know? I always feel like there is a future just ahead where we have figured out this bit of nonsense that we're stuck on and that then everything will be better. Yeah. But that's not the case. And then it doesn't happen.
Have you been tempted to prey on some of these students at UCB? No. That's easy for you. Really?
I would never.
Not one of your actual students, but the group of people that come.
No, not the girls in line or anything. I mean, like I certainly at times dated other people in the UCB scene. Okay. You know what I mean? Right. Like coming up, like my your peers or the people just above or
who else are you
going
to meet? That's your whole life.
But no, not like not a groupie. Like what Monica described as like the girls at Birds or something like that.
Oh, that would be very hard for me not to indulge in.
I find if people know who I am, I'm less interested in them. There's something that makes me. It's just that thing of like, oh, is this transactional for you because I'm me to you?
Yes.
And that means something. In this instance.
Which in some cases is fine. Like there's, I think you probably heard that on Stern. I forget who they were just talking about, but it was like Ronnie or someone said like, aren't you worried that these girls are just with you because you're you? And he goes, I hope that's why you're with me. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a revolutionary way to look at it. Like, I guess that is what you want. But
I think it's so weird. I feel like one time I asked you this. I was like, is it weird that I know things about you that you haven't told me? Like in a relationship, that must be so weird if you're a public person and you date someone who knows of you or has like watched a video of you and like they know things about you that you haven't decided to tell them. That's so strange.
Well, you know a lot of me, right?
Yeah.
You knew I was allergic to eggs.
I
You know
so
stuff about me we've never met before.
I know.
But you've you've listened to my podcast or a podcast I was on or something. And this is partially why I am not on social media or anything like that, is like there is enough information about me out there that I have put out there, mostly on podcasts, that is, you can get to know part of me,
for sure.
an element of me. Yeah. And that is very strange if you are talking to, if you meet a woman and you're talking to her and then she knows information about you and you don't know information about her. That's odd.
Yes, but can I offer a theory?
Sure.
I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that you really enjoy the winning someone over aspect, the getting approval from somebody that maybe you initially assume wouldn't give you approval.
Absolutely.
And if you start, to me, it's why I never understood strip clubs. It never appealed to me because it was like, well, they want money.
There's no.
I can't buy into the fantasy. The only thing hot about me is my money.
Exactly. These people aren't here because they like me.
Yeah, so if someone is inordinately attracted to you without ever having talked to you, it's like there's nothing there to prove or to win over or to earn.
I think though the thing that is very real is in success, I have to presume that in a way that is part of the job that I've chosen to pursue, people will know who I am.
Sure.
So I can't live in a world in which I would only date someone who's literally like, I don't know who you are.
Okay, so having achieved or attained that kind of status where people would look up to you and regard you in a way that you probably regarded other comedians.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever connected those dots? Like I in my own life, I hold certain people on this level that I just think they were something different than any of us are.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
like
sure.
Chevy Chase or whatever, whoever these guys are that I looked up to. And then occasionally seen in someone's eyes, like, holy shit, this person literally looks at me like I'm Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
So, oh wow, Chevy Chase was just a normal dum-dum too.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's just a dum-dum. This weird circumstance can create this really fake, heightened.
It's
isn't it like isn't it eye-opening?
Like trembling to talk to me, like nervous and trembling and like almost in tears because they are about to talk to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is wild.
Yes,
This is wild right
It can kind of shatter the whole thing for you personally, which I think is weirdly a healthy thing to do.
Absolutely. This is like, what luck that the thing we are good at doing and love to do also brings us in success a lot of attention that is, I'm
love
sure, validating and I'm sure makes us feel good. I would do it without that. I would do it without being able to be on TV if I could just do it in the theater or whatever. But even still, that is still I want those laughs. I want that audience. Like, I love that audience.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is like the dynamic I always want to be in.
Yes.
You know, me on stage and with a live audience. That's exciting. You know, whether it's doing the podcast or doing UCB shows or whatever. I love that. That's exciting to me. And the fact that people take from that an excitement to then talk to me such that it might make them nervous or whatever. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. And it does. It kind of demystifies
It's only
the whole thing.
Yeah, for me, it's not even like helpful, and it's not like I'm getting off on that aspect. It's helpful for me to right size the way I look at others, I guess.
Well, I also, and I don't know if you've found this, I also find meeting those people to be itself like a corrective for
Generally speaking,
yes.
very few
Chevy
people
Chase being an example.
Sure, absolutely.
You know,
although I will say, he did one of the funniest things I've ever seen in real life. Even though, yes, we all know about Chevy.
Sure.
And we were at Upfronts and we shared a car back from like the venue back to the hotel. And when we got out, there's all these people there for Chevy Chase, like people had posters and everything. And he like gets out and immediately people, Chevy Chase, and he goes, yes, I'm feeling much better now. Thank you for asking. And then he walked through it. I'm feeling much better now.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. No one asked that. He wasn't sick. And then just ran through. I was like, oh my God, he really is. He's still the guy.
Oh, he's still that guy. 100%.
He's still got it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and giving us so much of your time. Maybe you'll have me on How Did This Get Made?
We would love to.
And did you have any ethical reservation about going like, oh, can we really talk negative about just knowing how hard it is to make these things and how earnestly everyone sets out to do it?
I think that the way we kind of come at it is our point of view is we are celebrating these movies. We are thoroughly enjoying this.
Right.
We are not here to be like, look at this shitty actor. Look at this piece of shit. What a fucking grind and a slog. I hated this.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. We are there to be like, whether it's The Room or, Miami Connection or any of these kind of amateur-y movies that somehow get there.
Yeah.
Or whether it's Green Lantern or the Fast and Furious movies or those kind of things that we also really get into.
Sure.
It is always from a point of view of like, I'm excited to talk about this right now.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And that's more often than not the approach we take so that we're not trying to tear anything down. We all have been in bad movies.
Sure.
We all know what it takes to make a movie.
Almost
We get
impossible
it.
to make a good one.
It's very hard, and we get that. And so I think part of what is fun about our show, because there's a bunch of shows that do some version of what we do. I think what is fun about ours is just the conversation amongst the three of us and our guest is usually a very compelling, fun banter between friends.
Right.
And I think rarely does it verge on like anything like negative.
Real mean.
We're not trying to trash anything or anyone, really, ever.
Yeah.
So, we're going to have you on. You're going to have a blast.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming. And
you, guys.
this is exciting for Monica and me.
Monica, fact check it all. I gave you a lot of dates to fact check.
You did.
A lot of information to fact check. Ugh.
It was
You're going to be a busy beaver.
akin to hair play.
Right up there with hair play. And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman. Okay. Do you think that triggers people's misophonia?
Yes, I think it sounds
Finger snapping?
crazy.
I'm giving these misophonia people way too much attention.
Apparently, there's 75% of our audience has misophonia.
We should retitle this podcast to Misophonia with Dax Shepard.
What was I talking about the other day? Oh, our friend Laura, she has a weird thing where she can't like have toothpicks or like wood stuff makes her feel funny. And I was like, oh, that's sort of adjacent to misophonia. And then I kind of went back on misophonia. I was like, is it real? What is it?
Though eventually probably as more and more like 23andMe data comes in, all these different places that are mapping people's genome, there'll be a genetic marker for everything. Like not wanting wood in your mouth.
Not wanting wood in your mouth.
Peeing sitting down if you're a guy.
Not liking meanness.
Yeah. Predilection towards chocolate over vanilla ice cream. Right. Jason
Mantzoukas. We finally got him on here.
And you know what's peculiar about Jason Mantzoukas is of the many names I've had a hard time pronouncing,
His is not one.
His rolls off my tongue, and it's objectively harder to say than many of the people I've struggled with.
Of course.
Brett Weinstein.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You know, the Brett Weinstein thing is just simply muscle memory of having said Weinstein for so many years since I started pursuing acting. You learn about
the Weinsteins.
The Weinsteins.
You sure do.
And so you just have to, you got to break it down. You got to shatter that muscle memory. You got to take a sledgehammer to it.
It's hard.
It's not easy. Also, just, you know what, Weinstein? Jesus, now I'm confused.
Who are you trying
the Weinsteins.
Yeah.
Who's the one that went down?
Harvey.
Yeah. Fuck you, Harvey Weinstein, for ruining that name. There has to be a million Weinsteins around.
How dare you ruin that name?
What a jerk.
That's the bad thing you did.
Also, fuck you, Adolf Hitler. If someone gives you the name Adolf, you are fucked. He wiped out a name. There's a whole name that no one can be called anymore. Adolf Shepard.
Yeah.
I named my daughter Adolf Shepard.
No.
Oh my God, can't be done. Or Pol Pot. Fuck you, Pol Pot. I'm sure there's someone in Cambodia that would love to name their child Pol Pot. Now they can't.
I mean, although it goes kind of both ways, because even if it's like a really good, like an Oprah, if you name your kid Oprah Shepard, like that's also not allowed.
Well,
her name's also been taken off.
I guarantee there's some Oprahs around the country.
There might be some Adolfs.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna look.
It always even trips me out when those Coors commercials come on. Have you ever seen those? There's a Coors beer, which I love Coors beer commercials, and they are generally narrated by my co-star and friend and idol Sam Elliott, which is great.
Oh, great.
But they used to have this commercial that would tell you the history of the Coors family. And one of their names was Adolf Coors. You know, it was before Adolf Hitler.
Sure.
But just even in the commercial, I was like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to drink this beer. Adolf Coors.
Oh, wow, you
do you hate
recoiled.
Jewish people? Yeah.
Oh, my.
It's just he's so thoroughly sullied that name, Adolf. It's gone.
You talk about your mom's cholesterol being low.
I did?
Yeah.
No, her blood pressure.
No,
her cholesterol
cholesterol.
is high.
You said her cholesterol was low, and it had come back low because Barton, her husband, had passed away, and so she's been like eating better just by proxy, I guess, to that event.
Yeah.
And you said her cholesterol is low.
Lower.
But you said low. Like it was something to be celebrated.
Okay, that was a mistake. Because I don't think it's low.
Okay, well, I asked her.
Sure.
And she doesn't know.
But she doesn't know.
She couldn't tell me, unfortunately.
Right. Well, the story she told me is that it was high. She was considering getting on a statin.
Yeah.
And then she changed her eating post Barton dying. And it came back within a suitable range.
Okay.
I don't think, though, it's low.
Okay.
I think it's probably still on the upper edge of what is acceptable. All right.
Now we know. So fact was checked by you. That's good. You tell the story about Will Forte on a plane, and he's talking with his half beard face and then turns and it's gone. And you said that Mike Sure. Told you that story. So I emailed Mike to get some corroboration.
Oh, I'd love to hear what that was.
No, you don't get to hear that one.
Oh, hi, Mike. Hey, what are you doing? Anyways, I'm babbling. Anyways, I was calling. Wait, I'm not even calling. I'm emailing. Ugh, I'm so embarrassed. Anyways, okay. Have you ever met Will Forte? Well, of course you met Will Forte. You used to write for him.
And
You're so talented.
You're so talented.
You've written for like everyone now that I think about it.
I mean, you're not that far off. Okay, so he said, I do have a story about seeing Will on a plane unexpectedly, but it's a different story. Mine is that I was loading my bag into the overhead bin and heard a voice say, ma'am, can you please move so I can sit with my friend? And it was Will with this crazy full beard, and he sat next to me and played Candy Crush for 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
So then he said, I kind of remember the other story too. Must be a mutual friend who told us, but I forget who it was.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if you're out there and you listen, which is a very low percentage chance, please reach out to us. But someone did have that experience.
Someone did who knows both Mike and you. So I'm going to guess it's
Will.
And Will. It's probably someone on The Good Place. Could it be Morgan Saget?
Could have been Arnett. It could have been Bateman. It could have been. That circle's pretty.
But I bet you guys were together when you heard that story. So I assume it was a Good Place event.
Maybe.
So
maybe.
I hope we find out.
Yeah, me too.
That's a good mystery.
Unless it's like, do we have any enemies? We don't really have any enemies.
I don't have any. Only frenemies.
Only frenemies.
Yeah. Where do you buy really long Q-tips? You can get them at Amazon. You could get them at Walmart. Because I know what you're going to say is there wasn't Amazon when you were a kid and they were doing lice with those long Q-tips. So they probably got them at Walmart.
And even that, I mean, of course, Sam Walton started Walmart by the time I was in elementary, but it was not nationwide when I was in second grade, or at least there's no Walmarts in a 100-mile radius of my town, I can say. I imagine the school nurse at Spring Mills Elementary ordered all of them somehow.
I know, but
Medical
how?
supply.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
if
like
we're
a
really...
catalog. Like a
catalog. Okay.
wrote a letter.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, my God. I can't believe anything got done in the 80s.
How? It's a real question. How did people get long Q-tips? Like,
anything specialized. How did
Yeah.
anyone get anything specialized?
what stores did they have in Michigan when you were a kid?
Kmart's.
Okay, so maybe Kmart's.
Yeah, they probably
had
went
it.
to Kmart's.
Although Kmart is so generic, like I don't think they would have a specialty item like that.
Fucking loved Kmart's as a kid.
You
My Papa
did?
Bob would take me there on a Saturday, and I got to pick out a Hot Wheel car.
Oh, that's so nice.
Oh, and then we would stop at Arby's,
Oh my god, what a day!
or we would go to Ponderosa, which was an all-you-can-eat bar, or Duff's,
Okay, what's that?
another all-you-can-eat place, and that was the mecca. That was Mount Everest of all-you-can-eat bars. Duff's. This had two giant wheels that spun.
Okay.
And the size, I bet the diameter of these wheels, I'm not joking you, Monica, was 20 feet wide. These two gigantic wheels sitting horizontal,
Okay.
parallel to the ground. And half of the wheel was exposed, and it spun. And it spun because when it went to the behind the wall, that's where all the chefs were, and they'd refill all the fried chicken or the macaroni and cheese, and it was just always in motion. Oh, did I love it?
Oh, that sounds
And then
nice.
one was fixed. It was stationary, and it was only about 10 feet in diameter, and that's where the snacks were.
Okay.
The bread pudding, the
Jell-O.
vanilla wafer pie, banana cream pie.
Sure. Brownies. Do they have soft serve?
Yes, they had soft serve.
Okay, great.
And then just one last thing about Duff's, and it might have been Duffy's, but I think it was Duff's.
Was it Duff?
Maybe Duff.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe Duff.
Probably just Duff.
But one time, I loved that place more than anything. Papa Bob would take me there. My brother and I would go ape shit. We'd eat so much food. One time we were there, and there was another diner
Okay.
who had terrible cauliflower ear. The worst I've ever seen to this day. He had the most pronounced cauliflower ear I've ever seen in my life. And I just, as an 8-year-old, I couldn't stop staring at it, even though it was making me so sick. And I couldn't look away, and it fucking ruined my entire trip to Duff's. Or Duffy's or Duffy's.
Or Duff.
Or Duff.
It's Duff's buffet.
Oh, Duff's
Duff's
buffet.
buffet.
Yes.
Thank God.
So, did you continue to eat while you were staring at it?
Couldn't do it. Could not
you
do
weren't
it.
eating.
No,
You
it
were
ruined
just
my
staring.
whole thing. And then I would like look away long enough where I'd get my appetite back. And I'd go to take a bite. And right before I took a bite, I'd force myself to look over at those ears. His fucking ears were the size of these headphones I'm wearing right now. Yeah, I was nervous they were going to pop while
I think
he was.
he's still with us.
No. Because I was 8 and he was clearly 55 or something.
Oh.
But, he probably was a wrestling champ. He
I'm
probably had a
sure.
very glorious life.
What if it was Muhammad Ali?
It was not Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali did not have cauliflower ear.
Muhammad Ali was at Duff, and you saw him there.
Pounding a bunch of, I don't know what to say about that. I guess let's just say I had cauliflower ear that bad and I was going to an all-you-can-eat restaurant, I'd put something over my ears just out
No,
of,
you
to be
wouldn't.
courteous to everyone
That's
else.
so horrible. He has to do you think it
Yeah,
bothers
he
you
has,
more or him
he has
more?
to live with it, not the rest of us.
Oh.
So he can cover those up.
How will he hear?
Like, if
He's
I
gonna
have a-
ruin his whole life if he has to wear earmuffs everywhere.
What
How
if
will
I
he
had a
talk to
fucking
people?
like humongous herpes on my lip? I wouldn't go to an all-you-can-eat place.
Why?
Just I'll wait until it's better or something.
Well, I don't think that gets better. Isn't that a permanent condition?
It seems so. Yeah.
I don't-
Well, let's put it this way. There's no way that if he could have gotten rid of it, that he wouldn't have, because it was something. Funny the things you remember as a kid, like you remember the gross. I also remember this. I saw horse poop in the woods one time walking by my Papa Bob's house, and I saw it, and it was the grossest poop I've ever seen in my life. And then I walked away, and then I fucking made myself walk back and look at it again. It grossed me out so bad. I walked away, and I did this 3 or 4 times until I threw up. I don't.
know.
What is that?
I don't know. It
What
is
was-
a weird thing. I have that too, but I don't think maybe to that extent. I don't know.
Yeah, not like X Games style. Like I was.
Like, what's the feeling in your body when that's happening?
I guess just compulsion, powerlessness.
But do you feel a sensation in your body?
Yeah, I'm a mess. Like I was all a titter. All my senses were on overload. My stomach hurt. I couldn't stop. I'm not going to do it, but I could describe it.
Don't describe
I'm not gonna-
it.
I'm not gonna- I'm
You
not gonna.
have to me, and I don't want
Yeah.
that on here.
No, I won't do that. But just there was a specific portion of it that I, of course, had to zero in on. It was so repulsive. What I want to know, we got to get Brett Weinstein back in here.
No, Weinstein. Oh, God.
It can't be said. Weinstein. We got to get Brett Weinstein on here and tell me evolutionarily why I had to go back and look till
Yeah.
I threw up. Like, did my body need to throw up in fear that I had eaten whatever this disgusting thing that person had eaten? Is it like that?
Maybe. We'll have
Like,
to
I think that's
ask.
how puking works. I think that's why people want to puke when they see other people puke, because presumably you all ate in a group and you all shared the same food. So if that person's sick, you better get it out now too. I think that's the
Really?
reason. Yes, is like the quicker you get it out, the better. So if you see someone in your group throwing up, your body
But what
knows.
if you just see it on the TV or something? Do you think it still
I don't
happens?
feel the desire to throw up when I see people throw up on TV. Do you?
No,
I hope not,
but
because
no,
I
but
throw up in every movie I make.
I don't have that, but I have a whole weird pathology with
Poop?
sickness.
Oh, sickness, yes.
So that's its own thing. But I think maybe the sensation I feel is similar in that moment to whatever you had in your poop.
But isn't yours horniness?
Okay, so that's an element that happens, but there's a lot happening.
Right. Well, I definitely did not feel horny, but I was also 8 years old. I don't think I had yet felt horny.
So maybe you didn't know it.
Perhaps.
Anyway,
Talk about a sidebar.
so we talk a lot about hair play and massages.
Mm-hmm.
And it got really intimate. I didn't ask my friend if it was okay.
Oh.
So, sorry, Gina, if you're not okay with the fact that now everyone knows that we do hair play and massages and it's not sexual
Yet.
yet. It's not sexual, but
I
it
loved it.
feels
I imagine
good.
in my dream scenario, you guys are like 77-year-old ladies. You're gray hair. You're playing with each other's gray hair. And then one of you just slowly turns around and locks eyes. And you realize, like,
romantic.
let's what-
try it.
We've been putting this off for 60 years.
It's really funny because I do see from the outside how that it's sexual.
It reads sexual.
It does, and I can see that objectively. But it's just so interesting, like it's so not.
Very plutonic.
It's incredibly non-sexual.
But still
It has
very
no sex.
pleasurable.
Exactly. So that's weird. Because you are getting pleasured in a way.
Yeah, you sure are.
But do people look when people go to get a massage?
Yeah.
They're not. It's not sexual.
I generally climax 6 or 7 times
you
during
don't.
a massage. No.
no, like you can.
But I do have weird thoughts when I'm getting a massage for sure.
You do.
That's why I prefer to get massaged by a guy because then I'm not thinking any weird thoughts. Oh. Yeah, then I can just enjoy the massage.
So if it's a female, you are feeling like horny.
Well, no, it's just unlike you for a female, I have all this junk between my legs, right? Testicles,
I have
penis,
some stuff between my
meatus.
legs too. Just letting you know.
Well, nothing, no
Nothing
protuberance,
hanging, nothing
right?
hanging down.
No protuberance. So I have all this dangly stuff down there. So
Okay.
like when I flip over, like my penis is flopping around, and then as they massage your legs, like they might graze your penis, and then just, of course, if your penis gets grazed, then just something in your brain comes online, and it's kind of involuntary and just happens. Like no one's grazing your clitoris, are they, during a massage?
Not that I can recall.
Right.
No.
Or how about a nipple? Have you ever had that grazed?
Probably.
And doesn't that then ignite some kind of weird? It's an erogenous zone.
It is. It doesn't make me feel horny though. It makes me feel like, oh,
Scared.
yeah, like
Okay.
what's happening?
Yeah,
What
sure.
is happening now?
Where are we going with this?
Yeah. I will say when I'm getting waxed,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm kind of constantly thinking like,
Don't get aroused.
don't start thinking about something that might make me get aroused. Yeah. I
Which-
get like kind of panicky in that situation. My brain's going to like go there.
Now imagine being a guy. Every guy has that exact same fear when they're getting their penis and testicles examined. It's generally by a dude, and you're panic. You're in your mind. You're like, oh my god, please don't get aroused and send a wrong signal,
Yeah.
and it becomes a preoccupation. And then all that communication with your penis and testicles can then result in some unwanted stiffness. I have to imagine a lot of guys are getting erect during these examinations.
I'm sure they are.
I wish there was some data on that.
I'll look into it. Okay, is a portion of Cyprus contested land with Turkey? Yes, he was correct. The Cyprus dispute, also known as the Cyprus conflict, is the ongoing dispute between the two communities on the island and the Turkish military invasion and occupation of the northern third of Cyprus since 1974. Although the Republic of Cyprus is recognized as the sole legitimate state sovereign over all the island, the north is under the de facto administration of the self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is guarded by Turkish armed forces. Only Turkey recognizes the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, while there is a broad recognition that the ongoing military presence constitutes occupation of territories that belong to the Republic of Cyprus. So it's a whole thing.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mantzoukas.
Yeah, thank you. He was nervous, he was wrong, and he was right. Okay, so he brings up Shelley Miscavige. And just in case people don't know who she is the wife of the Scientology leader David Miscavige.
Right, who has some allegations of physical abuse against him.
Well, and her whereabouts are unknown.
Yeah. Are they still unknown?
Yeah, they remain unknown.
Oh, really? That's been a long time.
So Leah Remini, the actress, who was a Scientologist and now is like a pretty vocal critic of it, I guess she filed a missing person report with the LAPD in 2013. And then there was a story in the LA Times based on information from an anonymous LAPD source. They said they contacted her and that they closed the case.
No, okay.
But no one knows where she is.
All right.
So-
well, she knows where she is.
She does. Well,
This is a great opportunity for me to bring something up that's
Okay.
been bothering me a little bit. Now, there's very few of these comments, so I'm overreacting. But there were several comments about why I didn't quiz Michael Pena about being a Scientologist.
oh, okay.
And I want to be very definitive about this.
Okay.
Okay? Whatever transgressions you believe the Church of Scientology is guilty of, whether it is being physically abusive or having indentured servants or any number of these allegations, I can promise you that Michael Pena has not committed any of these transgressions that they are alleged to have committed. I know that for certain that he's not beating anyone up or he doesn't have any indentured servants at his house. So the reason I don't have to ask him or feel compelled to ask him to defend that is the same reason I would not ask a Catholic guest on this podcast to spend their time being interviewed defending the priests who have molested boys. I would not ask a Jewish guest to defend the Hasidic misogyny against the women that exists. I wouldn't ask a Muslim guest to defend jihadists. That's not how it works on this show.
Right.
And just because he happens to be a member of a group that you like less than the Catholics doesn't mean that I'm going to make him defend people's actions that he himself hasn't committed. So going forward, that'll always be the case on this show. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also not here to make people uncomfortable.
no, I'm here to learn about Michael Pena, not about the Church of Scientology. Now, I wanted to do it with Erica because she wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And that was a great opportunity for us to hear from someone who's inside what her experience was. And we've also heard what the Leah Remini's experience was. We've heard what the folks who make Going Clear believe about the church. So you're hearing all of it. And if someone wants to talk about that, that's great. But it's not my position to make people defend actions that are not theirs.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so you talk about Charlestown in Boston, and you do it.
Charlestown.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is just something, that's another word like Neanderthal and orangutan that I'm never going to say.
The way I do.
Yeah.
I don't know that I say it right. I just always like to imitate the people who
You're doing an
are
accent.
from Charlestown.
Right, right, right. Yeah. It's just.
And the
was just
great
one of those
movie, The
words.
Town, your boyfriend's movie, The Town,
Yeah.
is about Charlestown.
Right, right. I'm still going to pronounce it Charlestown.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Oh, this is an unfortunate moment where we're sort of outed by sometimes releasing things out of order. Sometimes time has elapsed, because we talk about the Bikram Yoga podcast. He is telling us about the Bikram Yoga podcast, so we had not listened yet, and we have since listened and talked about it. So, look.
And that's 30 for 30's podcast.
Exactly.
It's great.
Exactly. So it was a little out of order, and now you know, world.
Yep. There's some witchcraft and hijinks going on behind the scenes here.
That's right. Okay, he said he had just gotten his first email in 1995 when he was on his trip. The first major commercial internet service providers hit the scene in the early 1990s through 1995. AOL, Prodigy, and CompuServe all showed up during then. At that time, and still, ISPs would give users an email address automatically. But popular webmail services like Hotmail started popping up in 1996, 1997. Yeah. Do you remember when you got your first email?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
What was your email address? Do you remember it?
Oh, it was so annoying. People hated it. It was AOL.
Yep.
It was Dax 1234567 because I think you were entitled to 10 characters. And here's what happened. I typed in Dax, taken. Typed in Dax 1, taken. Typed in Dax 1, 2, taken. And I got frustrated and impatient. So then I just went all the way to fucking 10. And then everyone had to pay the price for that for eternity, and they hated it. And luckily, those days are over for me.
Oh, wow.
That account also got hacked about 36 times before I finally got rid of it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that's not good. Not good for AOL.
Nope.
Good thing they're not a sponsor. My first email was Cupcake Chick at AOL.
Oh, Cupcake Chick at AOL.
And that was my AIM name, and that was my email. I think I've said this before because it was still my email through high school. So when I applied to college, that was my email, and my dad was so concerned. He was like, they're not going to let you into college with this email.
That I'd have a similar concern.
He was nervous.
Wants dick, 1988. And then you're applying to like Harvard.
Exactly. And he didn't really say it on here. I mean, I think it was clear, and I'm sure people already know, but I just want to be really clear at how big of a deal he is at UCB.
Okay.
He is a big
Oprah big?
deal. He's at Oprah.
A
And
deity.
it's earned. It's earned. He's so good. But his shows sell out immediately. They're hot ticket shows.
He's an improv god.
He really is. And I just wanted everyone to know, because he's, of course, not going to say that.
Yeah.
And if anyone gets the chance to see him do it, you should. It's
Not to be
incredibly
missed.
impressive. Yeah. Amy Poehler went to SNL during the 2001-2002 season, her debut episode being the first one produced after the 9/11 attacks. He was right. Yeah. Okay, and then also just to wrap up, I just felt like such a fangirl. But I wasn't. But I could feel that I was nervous it was coming off like that. And I didn't like that.
I love it.
I know, you made it so much worse.
There's nothing more endearing than seeing someone love something and be a fan of something. I find it to be the most endearing thing ever.
But not people.
Yes, people.
I disagree.
Who wouldn't enjoy it? I can't imagine. Even if Brad Pitt sat right there and it turned out he was a mega fan of mine, the whole thing would be so pleasurable.
Okay, but if Brad Pitt sat right here and you were like fanning out and then I was pushing that you were in...
I expect you to if he ever sits there.
No,
he'll like it.
And I don't think so. I think to an extent, yes, and then it's uncomfortable.
I think what you're mapping onto it is the status differentiation. And I think you think if the higher status person is a huge fan of the lower status person, it's totally endearing and likable. But if a lower status person is a huge fan of a higher status person, it's annoying to the higher status person. I'm arguing that it's not. It's always lovely to find out someone really loves what you've done.
I guess that's true.
I mean, imagine like a 19-year-old girl comes in here and she just stares at you the whole time and she keeps telling you all the favorite things you've said and she just likes you so much and looks up to you. Well, you wouldn't dislike that or...
No. I mean, I wouldn't dislike it, but it might make me a little uncomfortable because then I'm a person she's already decided stuff about and like puts on maybe a pedestal or something. And I am not comfortable with that. I like just a normal relationship, normal talking, getting to know people thing. I think that gets hindered when someone
is idolizing you.
Yeah, or you think they are. I don't think you could have a real relationship with anyone like that or even like a real actual conversation.
Right. But you were a super fan of Kristen's.
Right, but yeah, I was.
Yeah.
But not when I knew her. I mean, I am. I still am.
Yeah, you're like Veronica Mars, one of your favorite shows.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
But once I met her, I hated her. No, once I met her, I was not like... You know, I saw Veronica Mars and I love it. And
well, that's just because you're self-aware.
Like, I wasn't doing any of that.
But you also weren't
kind of doing that here because of the interview.
But again, the context is much different. So with Kristen, you didn't feel like, oh my God, this is my only 15 minutes I'm ever going to be around this person. I have to tell them what I think about them. You're like, oh, I'm going to be in this person's life. There's no pressure for me to express to them how I feel about them. Whereas if someone came and sat here in on an episode with you, that they would in their mind be like, this is my only chance to tell Monica how much she's moved me.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I
think I'm gonna do a contest. Anyone who believes that they are a legitimate super fan of Monica.
Oh no, we're not doing this.
We're gonna do a charity and they're gonna win.
Charity.
Yeah, we're gonna raise $10 or $12 and we're gonna get someone in here to super fan you, and I can't wait.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I love you.
Love you.